Ahoy hoy, I am Planarwalk, and welcome to this is going to be a polite discussion with a flat earther known as Rachie, but there's still a bit that she has to do before she can come on, so for now we're going to have a bit of a discussion with Seek Truth, Speak Truth. How you doing?
Good, mate. Yeah, very well, mate. How are you?
I'm doing pretty alright, and let's see if there's who we've got in the chat, and make sure that everything is live. It'd suck if I had tried to start the stream and it turned out that we just weren't live, but it seems as though we're live, so that's always a good thing.
Dell apparently did one the other day, and he sat there for about 50 minutes thinking he was live, and he wasn't at all. So he sat there apparently ranting for 50 minutes to nobody. Yeah.
To be fair,
that was quite amusing.
To be fair, I've also done that.
Yeah, I've done it privately because my phone ran out of battery, and I didn't realise. And yeah, I was just chatting nonsense to myself for about half an hour.
Yeah, that's why I generally use my computer rather than a phone. That way, the only time the computer runs out of battery is when the power goes out, and when that happens, I kind of notice it.
I still do everything on my phone, dude. So like, I haven't even got a laptop. I've got a tablet as well. So
okay.
like, just got sort of drooling at the minute, but
yeah,
man.
I've got a tablet. It's a Surface Pro. Unfortunately, the keyboard is kind of stuffed on it. So when I press the P key, the P key just doesn't work. It used to be that I could sort of get under the keyboard, push up the bit on the keyboard, and then press the P key, and then it would work. But now P key is just completely stuffed. So is the
it's always the P key, man, for some reason.
Yeah, maybe I press that key a bit too much. Like, literally, if I want to go to Patreon, I just press P, right? And then it comes up with Patreon. If I want to go to other sites, it's just P and then down a few ones. Yeah, Bluetooth keyboard might work. How much do Bluetooth keyboards cost?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
probably
either.
Not much. 30 quid, £30 probably.
Possibly. There's also the other keys that are broken are the two square bracket keys, which includes curly brackets, obviously, and the backslash key, the one that's used for escape. Oh, and the Alt keys are broken, so yeah, not good.
It's going to happen though. Have you seen them images of like keyboards where there's literally no letters left on them, basically? But people still know how to.
Yeah, I've seen some of them. My keyboard has an issue where some of the keys have like this film on them, and it's kind of like I should probably clean my keyboard. It's generally happened to the keys that I don't use as much. Like the one key is completely clean, but when you start to get to 6, 7, and 8, those keys are a bit dirty. But yeah,
dirty keys.
Yeah, that gets a bit annoying. It's like I should really clean my keyboard at some point. And people are saying get a Dvorak keyboard. I've heard about them, but you've got to sort of learn a new layout to your keyboard, which I'm fine with QWERTY. I've used QWERTY since I was. How old was I when I started using QWERTY? When did I get? Because I still actually have that phone. It's a Vodafone phone, and that has a QWERTY keyboard. So, because I absolutely hated the keypad on phones where it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and on I think 2 was ABC. I absolutely hated that style of keyboard.
Yeah.
But now I've got a but then I got a phone that had a QWERTY pad on it, and that was brilliant. The next one that I got was a touchscreen phone, so I never used the 1, 2, 3 version. I always flipped it over so that I could use the QWERTY pad, because I knew where all
I've
the.
still got one of those old phones though. Like, you know, the type of phone that would basically survive an atomic bomb. Like, I've still got one of them just in case I ever need to use it. Do you know what I mean? And I remember I broke my phone once and went back to obviously having to send a text message. You know, pressing a button 5 times just to hit an S. And yeah, it was like at one point it was so efficient and it felt so quick, but now, wow, that is like so slow.
Yeah. When it comes to one of my phones that I had, I actually broke the screen to it, and this was a Nokia phone, and this was essentially I had a bottle cap in my pocket as well as my phone in my pocket, and I was jumping on a trampoline, and the bottle cap broke the screen. Are you still there, Seek Truth? He looks like he's frozen. Anyway, I'll see what people are saying in the chat. We've got Pixel 2 Domination saying, Seek Truth, Speak Truth, showing your age, mate. Yeah, I think... Although, to be fair, like, I had a phone where it had a pad, so that was my Nokia. Caleb Dark says, who's the Flurf? Currently, I don't have the Flurf on. We've got Seek Truth, Speak Truth on, but Rachie is going to come on in a bit. Once she's done with what she has to do, so yeah. And Hello said Flat Earth exists and then had to put /s because a bad connection. Okay. That makes sense. Maybe you need to upgrade your internet. When SMS reigned, yeah. Nowadays, barely anyone uses SMS. Oh, NASA cut me off. Yeah, nowadays it's things like Discord and any of the messaging services. Like, ahoy hoy, you back?
Hello, mate. Sorry.
Yeah. And also, like, everyone uses touchscreen phones these days. I remember when that wasn't the case. And we've got Baldy Cats in the chat. How's it going, Baldy Cats? I wonder if how Baldy Cats is dealing with his brother, Conspiracy Cats. I wonder if they're on good terms. To be fair, Baldy Cats is the better one of the two, so... Even though I do know some secrets.
Who do you actually...
What's that? Who do I actually... You cut out for a bit.
Oh, sorry, no, yeah, I was saying who do you prefer out of the two, but you've already answered it.
Oh, yeah. Baldy Cats, obviously.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't like conspiracy cats much. It's alright, but
yeah. I mean, they each have their they each have their quirks in that, but Baldy Cats is definitely the better person out of the two. And just gonna say to Cats, because I told him what was gonna be happening, is we've currently got Seek Truth, Speak Truth on, and I'm just waiting for Rachie. So yeah, I might actually pop out Seek Truth, Speak Truth. Once it actually pops out. There we go. We've got that popped out, and let's make the window smaller. And there we go. Now we can go. Now I'll go to this and go display capture. There we go. Now we've got a Seek Truth, Speak Truth on screen. It was about the same. Actually, what I could do is if I. How do I. Oh, there we go. Hide members. And we can. I can do some fancy stuff where I actually bring this up to.
make me look pretty.
I bring this. I can bring this up right next to me and make it about the same size as me. Seems like you're using a really wide camera. Maybe it's just my perspective or something.
It's a fisheye.
Yeah. Oh, and I've got to.
My head is actually flat.
That makes sense. I knew when I see bald people, their head isn't actually a dome. It's actually flat. It's just perspective.
You got me. Yeah. It's just an apparent forehead.
Exactly. And Doc Savage says it's obviously perspective. Fisheye for his escapades on Omegle. Oh.
So what video have we got up here? Is that a Red's rhetoric video?
Yeah, so the Red's rhetoric video that I've got is the Tampa Bay blink test. It's a thing that I've got prepared. And then I've got Mage 2, What is the Shape of the Earth? Because they're both two very good evidences for the globe. And Rachie is typing, so what I might do is I might just put her in a chat with I might, add her to a chat, and you can be in on the chat, and if there's anything that you want to say.
Yeah, vocal voice and sort of thing.
Yeah. It'll be a very chill, very, very chill thing. Like, it's not going to be... Like, quite often debates, when it comes to flat earth debates and stuff, they often devolve into shouting and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think that's what's going to happen, honestly. Because Rachie is a very chill person. I am mostly chill. And, I mean, you are also very chill, so... Okay, Rachie should be about 10 to 15 minutes.
Cool.
So, yeah. And I'll have... To be fair, though, lately it has been getting pretty heated, but that's just because of the sun and summer. I'm guessing it's pretty chill over in the UK, so...
Yeah, it's really quite cold out there at the minute, so... I just love even how that is just proof of the globe, really, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
How we're being affected like that. Yeah, I know, obviously, New Zealand, I mean, does that get pretty cold there in the winter?
Yeah, well, depends what you define as cold, because... Like, I define cold generally as around about 5 degrees-ish. but you do get, like, sometimes it even gets down to 0 degrees. But then people say 5 degrees, pfft, or even 0 degrees. Try -20. It's like, geez, does you actually? And it's like, oh, you live in Canada, so that explains it.
Yeah, I mean, even yeah.
What was that?
I mean, even in the UK, really, I mean, it's nowhere near as cold as some places get. You know.
Yeah.
We feel like it's cold, but then you go to, like you say, Canada or something, and Alaska or somewhere like that, and you feel the real cold.
Yeah. To be fair, in the UK, you just don't get it all. It's not the UK, it's just England, right? In England, you just don't get any sun. Right? Because...
No, I mean, we do, but, you know, it's not great sun, but we do see it every now and again.
Well...
But, you know, you're not going to get much of a tan, put it that way.
Well, I've seen the TV shows that take place over in England, and sometimes there may be a slightly blue sky, but the rest of the time it's just completely cloud.
Yeah.
You know, and...
It's very cloudy and gloomy sometimes.
Yeah. And so I imagine that when the sun does end up in that blue part of the sky, that a lot of people just go outside and go, wait, what's that glowing yellow orb?
Yeah. People just flock. Like when the sun comes out in England, like, you go to a park and basically that's like one person every, like, square metre, like, just laying there trying to get some vitamin D.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going over the top a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of characterising it a little bit. But...
Well, I mean, I am too, but, you know. we all know that in England, that's where Nibiru is, and that's what's blocking out the sun. So you know. To be fair, it's not much better where I live, so you know.
Yeah, New Zealand is. Well, I don't know. I mean, I often hear like it's one of the nicest countries really in the world to live.
Well, it depends
depends
on where you go. Honestly, like some places are really nice, but other places it's just. Like the place where I live, you get 4 seasons in one day, right? If you don't like the weather where I live, wait 20 minutes. So, and I mean, right now we've got a bit of blue skies. It seems to be very sunny, but I'm also seeing quite a few clouds. So... I do like what P. Barnes said. One of my favourite pastimes in summer is standing on the roof cursing at the sun. Although, one of the things that I actually heard a while back was apparently in some places in the States, particularly in places like Utah and you know, the desert area, apparently they have this thing called a humidifier. Right? And when I first heard about that, I was thinking, wait, don't you mean a dehumidifier? And they're like, no, a humidifier to make it more humid. And I'm like, oh. See, in New Zealand, we use dehumidifiers. Although, I think there is one way that you could actually just... like, if you live in a desert area, there's one way that you could probably have a humidifier for free without having to use electricity, and that's just dry your clothes inside. Like, have a clothes rack and dry them inside, and, you know, it'll humidify the place. I mean...
Yeah.
Tommy Gromvold says, the title says Flat Earther, I can't see any. I mean, we've got an ex-Flat Earther here, so...
Tommy's obviously not seen much. I've gone back, mate. The Earth's flat.
Alright, this waits now. Let's seek truth, speak truth.
It was all a setup. I did it all to build my channel. I'm really a flat earther. Not really. No.
I actually have have a interesting thing. Like, Seek Truth, Speak Truth is probably the only person here to have broken the truth paradox. Right? Do you know the truth paradox?
Of the, what channel name?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you created your channel, it kind of fell into the truth paradox, but now that you've become a globe earther, you've kind of broken that.
Yeah. I heard someone the other day, though, they said, basically, I need to not have a capitalised T for truth because there's no such thing. So, yeah, apparently I need to change that, but other than that, I'm okay.
I mean, it depends how you define truth, because a lot of people define truth as what's real. They basically define truth as facts, alright? Because the way that I see it, there are facts which are independent of observation, but then there's truth, which is how you interpret facts, I guess, and truth, like, you can hold something to be true, right? But that doesn't mean that it's factually correct.
But it could be wrong. Yeah. I suppose, like, seek facts, speak facts just doesn't roll off the tongue quite so well.
Exactly. It's basically you get into the conundrum of, like, if you, let's say you believe in something like God, right? A lot of people do believe in God, and they will, when they say something about God, like they say God exists and all that kind of stuff, who am I like, if they really believe that, who am I to say what they're saying is not the truth? They believe that it's the truth, right? However, I don't think that what they're saying is factual. Yeah.
I think the only thing you can fight against there is, like, you know, the evidence of the universe being 14.8 billion years old. There may be able to be questions before that, but you can fight for the fact that Earth certainly isn't 6,000 years old, can't you? And do you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think I could ever, you know, just tell somebody, oh, your God does not exist. Like, how can I prove it doesn't? But I can prove the Earth isn't flat. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's where the big difference is.
Yeah. For me, I'm not as much of a, like, I would still classify myself as an anti-theist. However, I'm not as much of an anti-theist as I used to be. And, like, if someone wants to believe in a God and it's not hurting anyone, then that's up to them. But if someone's trying to tell other people that God exists and trying to support that by saying that evolution is a lie or something, then I'm going to push back on that. Or if someone wants to go into a mall and try and push their religion on others while saying that Santa isn't real, then yeah, I'll push back on that. But if someone's going to just be like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, it's like, okay, cool. Like, I've known Christians that if it weren't for me saying something like, I can't remember what it was that I said. Like, there's one Christian that I knew, and I didn't know that they were a Christian until it was just brought up in a conversation. And it's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Because they just don't mention it all the time. And I can respect that. However, when it comes to people that are trying to push you to Christianity, no. What are you going to say?
No, I was just saying, like, it's like a belief in anything, really, isn't it? Say, even the placebo effect. I think it's been looked into whether, to somebody, their belief in religion is good for them mentally, if you know what I mean. So,
Ahoy hoy. Going through Scotty Storm PTSD.
So, firstly, I think I should address the super chat, the $10 from Graymore Ghost. Thank you very much. And do you know who Scotty Storm is?
Scotty Storm, a wrestler.
No, Scotty Storm is a flat earther who I thought that he had completely deleted his channel, but it turns out that he's back, and I'm gonna have to make a video on him. So, although it seems that he's wearing last time I briefly checked his channel the other day, and it seems as though he's wearing a shirt. So, I mean, that's an improvement.
Yeah, I need to start finding more sort of flat earthers, to be honest, to make other content, if you know what I mean. Like, sometimes I just get stuck in concentrating on someone, saying at the minute it's probably been Nathan Oakley, do you know what I mean? Like, but sometimes I get so stuck in that, and I think there's a lot more out there that I need to be paying attention to other than just these channels, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually think that Cats has a really good idea of focusing on people that can be bought over, right? And what I mean by that is you got these people like Nathan Oakley, like Nurthen Thurmpson and all that, and they're never going to be convinced that the Earth is a globe, because if they change to be saying, oh, the Earth is a globe, they're going to lose a lot of viewers, because the viewers believe that that Earth is flat, but they have convinced their viewers that they believe that the Earth is flat, but I'm not convinced that Nathan Oakley believes that the Earth is flat.
No way, no.
And so...
the thing is, though, I think people get stuck in that kind of... It's difficult because the people that you go to, and not being funny, you kind of know you're going to get some good views out of it, but those type of people aren't really ever going to be converted back to the truth of the globe, are they? If you know what I mean. And that's why, I find it myself where I'll do a split between, like, make a video about a big name, and then, but in reality, that that's for the bigger picture. That's not aimed at that person specifically, is it? But
yeah.
I also like then doing videos where you've actually made a bit of a connection, and you're actually like, do you know what, I'm literally here just for you to say this. Those videos don't get the views, but to me they're the most important ones. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. When it comes to things like flat Earth and the videos that I make. Look, I've made a couple of videos on Nurthen Thurmpson recently, and the reason why is because Nurthen Thurmpson is really an arsehole. That's the way that I view it. Nurthen Thurmpson is is basically an arsehole that does a lot of things to get attention, and if people see that the people that they look up to are arseholes, then I think that they can be bought over, right? And I'm not convinced that everybody is completely stuck in their ways and that they'll never see reason, because that's not true. At least not in my experience.
I wouldn't have come back. Do you know what I mean? Like, and especially, because there's a lot more Christians than there are flat earthers, but you see a lot of ex-Christians that were brought up in certain aspects, or Muslims even, and then they leave the faith. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. Because obviously it's so much more huge than flat earth, isn't it? So I think when someone does leave, kind of looks bigger than it is. Do you know what I mean? When in reality, there's probably loads and loads of people.
I think that it really comes down to when notable people leave, honestly. When more notable people leave, then it kind of... Because I can guarantee you that despite what Nurthen Thurmpson will say, he says, once you go flat, you never go back. When in reality, there's probably heaps of people that have become flat earthers that that became flat earthers and then later realized that flat earth was wrong. Like yourself, but these people, because they didn't start a YouTube channel, because they never went on any debates, they never really were noticed.
Yeah.
And so...
I probably get about 4 or 5 comments a month, I'd say, of people saying, like, oh, you know, I found, say, Simon Dan or FTFE. I was so close to believing in flat Earth, or I was a flat earther. So they're definitely there, you know, but they're not very vocal about it, which I can't blame people because of the backlash that you get. Do you know what I mean? I don't blame anyone for actually never really making much of a deal out of it, because you're probably best not to, in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've almost tarred myself with this brush now. Kind of typecast myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And not many people want to do that, you know. But I was kind of happy to step in, and I thought, there's no one being that part and standing up for the... Yes, there is ex-flat earthers out there, do you know what I mean? And I kind of took it on myself a bit, but not everyone feels that, and I can't blame them.
Yeah, because you get a lot of people that... You get a lot of people that are trying to paint this narrative of you only have ex-globers, never ex-flat earthers, when in reality, both are, you have ex-globe earthers and then you have ex-flat earthers, and I think that it kind of is a bit of a bit telling that you've got people that most ex-flat earthers, I'd say, are also ex-globe earthers as well. Like, you probably were a globe earther, then became a flat earther, then became a globe earther again. Am I correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I've got a few people in chat just asking if Rachie is coming in. She should be. Just like, sometimes it takes a while for people to come in. So, you know, that...
I'm just going to pop away for 2 or 3 minutes, mate, but I'll be back in a second.
Okay, cool.
Alright, mate.
Alright. I'm just going to... So, Joe King says, Sleeping Warrior won't let Rachie on without him going on with her. Oh, really? That seems a bit weird. Bob and Jeranism are obviously liars. Oh, yeah. I don't think that Bob and Jeranism... Like, I think that Bob may have actually believed it. Like, when he... with the whole ring laser thing. But I think that he is either lying at this point, or he is so invested in Flat Earth that he just can't admit that it's not flat. And Rapid X says, yo, Planarwalk, I only just saw your message. When was this? It'll be alright. I can't remember what the message was, so just respond to it and then I'll know what it is. Long time ago. Oh yeah, all the videos on Jeranism, Globebusters are down. You've got Jeranism Monday Night Raw, which is a thing that okay, Rachie is ready. I'm just going to type out. Okay, so add friends to DM. Alright, I'm just going to bring Rachie in right now, so... There we go. Create group DM, and this should... We'll pop this out so that we can have... There we go. And I'm just going to... Oh, this should be fine. Oh, we don't need it to be too small. Alright, are you there, Rachie, or... Am I being heard, or is there a...
Hello.
Ahoy hoy!
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ahoy, hoy.
Alright.
First time I've joined a call like this, so I'm not sure how it exactly works.
It's just a case of if you speak, Discord will pick it up and tell everyone else, or send it to everyone else, so...
No, okay.
Okay, so, I should probably share my screen. Give me a second.
I actually can't hear you guys, so I'm going to have to try and grab some headphones.
Okay. I probably said that with... Alright, I'll share my entire screen. Screen 1. There we go. I'm there. So, what I'm going to do, Rachie, is I'm going to present to you a bit of evidence, and then we'll see what you think about that evidence, and we'll have a bit of a discussion about it. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, and I've also got Seek Truth, Speak Truth in here, because I don't want to kick him out. and he's always a good...
Hey, you can kick me out if you want, buddy.
No, I'm not going to kick you out. It's nice having you along, so... So yeah,
I've got my headphones, so I can hear you all now.
Okay, so the first bit of evidence that I want to show you, Rachie, is... Well, firstly, I want to ask, have you seen... Oh, it was Baldy Cats that uploaded it, didn't he? His video that he put out yesterday.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. It was a good video in my opinion. I watched it as well. I may steal a few of his arguments, but I'll try and keep it mostly my own stuff for today.
That's okay.
So, what I want to focus more on, at least for now, we can jump into some other stuff, but I want to focus more on actually showing that Earth is curved, showing that it is a globe, without using things like NASA, because obviously you're not going to trust things from NASA or SpaceX or I think it's JPL or something like that, you know. So I'm going to focus on, you know, observations that we can make. And the first observation is a blink test from Tampa Bay, and I'll skip forward to where it was. Where is it? Okay. So this is the... So this is an image taken from... I don't know how far away it is. It's probably details in the video. But yeah, this is an image taken of an area in Tampa Bay. And when you let the video play, it shows you how it looks from much further away. And this shows that objects disappear bottom first over the horizon, and it's exactly what we expect to see on a globe.
Okay. I don't think I've seen that before.
You don't think you've seen this?
I don't think so. I've seen similar ones, but I don't think I've seen that exact picture before.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of different things like this. Like I can bring up Ranty's disappearing boat that the boat that disappears over the horizon. There's one that I think that Katz has shown in his video yesterday, where it was a boat that was sort of half hidden by the horizon. So, what I gain from these things is that objects disappear bottom first over the horizon, and the simplest explanation, at least in my view, is that the water is blocking them from view. Or that there's a physical obstruction there that are blocking them from view. And I have heard of the flat earth explanation, and to me this explanation doesn't really hold much weight, and that is perspective.
Yeah, that's what I would have said as well. Things lower with distance because of perspective, that's what I would have said. Okay,
so there is a bit of truth to this, but then there's also a bit of it doesn't tell the full story. So the truth there is that if something is above your eye height, then as it gets further into the distance, it will appear to lower. And I could probably bring up perspective, images. So this kind of thing here is what most people think about when they are talking about perspective. Right, this kind of thing here. The problem with using this as an argument for why things disappear bottom first is that this line here will never go below the center of view. The top lines will never go below the center of view. And the reason for this is because it's just things getting smaller with distance. It's not actually them lowering, really, if that makes sense. Like, it looks like they're lowering, but they're not actually. I'm trying to work out a better way to...
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, they're still the same height, really, but they appear to be lower.
Yeah. It's to do with things like angular size, and there is a simple... there is a simple explanation, or there's a simple equation for angular size, and that is the arctan of height over distance. I think I got that correct. There's probably a few more variables in there, but that is the simple way of calculating what size something should be. And the rule, one thing that you will never get when you're using that equation is you'll never get things that disappear bottom first due to anything. It will never make something shift relative to other objects.
I was wondering, do you have any evidence that something won't go below eye level?
I can bring up Blender that uses. So I'm sure I have some things in here. And it's more of when it comes to this won't go below eye level. It's more of you can't, because you never observe things going behind eye level. It's kind of very hard to prove that things don't go below eye level. You know what I mean? Because you'll never.
It would just be good to see something not going below eye level, because then I could confirm that something above eye level will never go below it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll see if I can I'm sure I have. Oh, here we go.
Because if something doesn't go below eye level, then obviously that disproves flat Earth, because obviously the sun would never be able to go below eye level.
Yeah. So this here is a simulation that I've done, and I actually need to go 0 and lock camera to view, and controls. Oopsie. So, there we go. So essentially, with this, you'll see that objects in the distance, they get small... I'll need... I'm going to lock camera to view, because this is... Actually, wait, can I go... No, that didn't work. Trying to use a program that I haven't used in a while is a bit annoying. So, there we go. So, this basically takes a camera and it simulates a camera in a 3D space. And you'll see that as you get further into the distance, whilst things are getting smaller, and the tops of these objects are getting closer to eye level, they don't actually dip below it. And you could simulate this out for as far as you wanted, and you'll just never get the top of these objects going below eye level.
Yeah.
And
it would be better if, like, I could see a bit better, like, the colours probably don't help.
yeah,
It's all, like, the same colour.
I can actually probably fix that. Give me a few seconds. Let's...
I think that's very similar to, that perspective shot down the corridor, and everything will just merge and get smaller to that kind of meeting point. But nothing actually ever would go below that meeting point, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I just realised that
Yeah, that's what they say, like.
I think all of these are using... Hold on, I think I have an idea. Shift, select... Wait, do I have to select all these individually? This is gonna be painful. Because I can select... I don't know how many cubes I had in this. I can at least... Oh no, I have to apply the materials individually. No. Okay, I can't change the colour on the fly.
Save that for next time.
Yeah. But the general idea is that these things, this is... Because when it comes to 3D objects, or 3D things, you're trying to make them look as realistic as possible, right? One thing... Now, I will grant that the one thing that this doesn't simulate is light. It's just simulating geometry. So things like refraction aren't taken into account.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether you'd need to simulate light, though, as everything is optical and it all comes from light, don't it?
Yep. So when it comes to that, there are things that you can use, and this is where you need to get a bit more. That you need to use a bit more of reasoning. So if I go to Mick West Black Swan. Here's a really good refraction simulator. Maybe if I go to videos, that might help me. This is Mick West Refraction Simulator. Okay, there we go, found it. And I'll bring this over here. And I'll bring up chat again so that I can actually see what's going on over here. Alright, so do you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially this is a thing that can simulate refraction. It's a program that Mick West wrote. I think he wrote it. And you can play around with refraction. You can also play around with whether you're on a flat Earth or on a... So this is on a flat Earth or on a globe Earth. And this is using the Black Swan oil rigs that you're probably familiar with.
Yeah, I've heard about it and seen the pictures and that.
Yeah. And you can also play with the temperature in Celsius and, simulate atmospheric conditions. So I think here you get the flat swan. I think that's the flat swan there. Something like that is the flat swan anyway. And... you get some crazy things with atmospheric refraction. So one of the things that he did for us is he has a few presets, right? So you've got the Black Swan image as it would appear on the globe, right?
Can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
That previous one, was that on the flat Earth, did you say?
There was I think I had this one up, and I showed the flat Earth one by ticking flat Earth. Is that the one that you're talking about, or?
Yeah, because I was just looking at that one in the background. Not that one, the one before that one.
This one here.
The one where the back one looks really small.
Oh, this one here.
Because that looks like it's disappearing bottom
one.
up, and if that's on a flat Earth, I was just thinking that looks like it's the bottom of it's missing.
Oh, this is simulating on a globe Earth.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and so essentially it's slightly disappearing bottom up. It's on a globe Earth, and this is just showing how refraction can allow you to see things like this.
On a flat Earth, though, wouldn't the horizon be behind the second platform habitat?
Yes. On a flat Earth.
What I mean?
I think it was, though, wasn't it, on the original Black Swan? I think there was a horizon behind the second one, wasn't there?
So this is the atmospheric refraction for on a globe Earth, how you'd get the Black Swan image.
Mm.
Yeah.
But more often than not,
the globe Earth one.
Yeah, so this is what would happen on a globe Earth. Now, he didn't actually simulate it on a flat Earth, and I suppose that's because flat Earthers are saying that, this is what we'd expect to see on a flat Earth. But it shows the atmospheric condition in Celsius that would be required to make something like this on a globe.
Do we know what the temperature was when they did the Black Swan?
I don't think we did. That's why one of the things that I would really like flat earthers to do is when they make these observations to take things like temperature readings, so that we can actually see what refraction is, how refraction is affecting things.
Yeah, it's alright. It's just that Kat's brought it up in his video when he was saying that we can tell it's refraction because of all the distortion, but I was thinking if it was a hot day, then heat can cause distortion as well, can't it? So.
Yeah, so when it comes to this...
It shouldn't take distortion to be able to see further, do you know what I mean? The only reason we end up seeing further is because of distortion. If the Earth was flat, you should always see a lot further than we do and not have to rely on distortion for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, because obviously distortion, you'd think you'd be able to see less far than when it's less distorted, or at least in my mind.
Well, that's a thing that...
I get that.
That's actually a thing that Nurthen Thurmpson tries to say often. And it's one of these things where intuitively it does make sense, right? But it's also one of these things where we're not saying how far we can see. We're talking about whether something is disappearing bottom up over the horizon.
And I suppose in that atmosphere, there's more kind of things to scatter the light. If it was such a clear day, the light would travel in a much straighter line. But like, because there is so much, whatever it is, near the sea level, it then has this like lensing effect in a way where it scatters the light. So really, that shows how why more atmosphere spreads the light out more than a clear day.
I think I might actually be able to find a really good image that I might have somewhere on my computer. I made it myself by collating a few other images, but I don't know exactly where it is. It's a really good comparison image when it comes to the Black Swan. So I'll take a few seconds to find it. Seek Truth, Speak Truth. If you want to talk to Rachie while I'm finding it.
Yes, mate. How are you, Rachie? You okay?
I'm alright, thank you.
Good. Like I say, my perception of the sort of Black Swan is the reason we see too far. And I understand the thinking, like, the thicker the atmosphere, you shouldn't be able to see so far. But it is always seemed to be over water that these observations are made, or over ice. And those kind of conditions, say ice cold, always seem to make these observations. But honestly, I think if the Earth was flat, we would be making observations 500-600 miles out from kind of standing height. Do you know what I mean? Like, there is this obvious drop away. If you can just visualize, looking away from yourself, like on a flat planet, even say with 100 feet observation, you should just see miles and miles and miles, and then you would get this corridor effect like you see with perspective. You just do not get that on the globe. That's all I've got there.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I've just brought up this thing here. So this is the flat Earth observations versus the globe Earth observations, or the ones that don't show them disappearing first over the horizon versus the ones that do. And let me just zoom it up a bit so that it's a bit more clearer. So one of the things that I've noticed about it is that you never get a properly clear image when it comes to the ones that don't show them disappearing bottom up over the horizon. And when it comes to the ones that are disappearing bottom first over the horizon, in 2 out of 3, you get a clear image, right? So the point...
Is that the one on the right?
Yep, so on the right, things are disappearing bottom first over the horizon. On the left, they aren't.
Yeah.
And whilst I will admit that, yes, there is this one where things are disappearing bottom first over the horizon, and it is, you get a small amount of distortion. Well, there's a large amount of distortion when you get really close to the water, right? And the ones here, the clearest one is rather blurry, and that is the one in the middle. That's the one that appears to have the least amount of distortion. Whereas when you come over here, you get some really nice, crisp images of things disappearing bottom first over the horizon.
But the one on the left as well, on the bottom, looks like it's disappearing bottom up as well. And the one on the bottom left kind of looks almost like slanted to the right, almost.
On the bottom, this one here, the bottom left.
On the bottom left side.
Yeah, so that one you kind of have to... I think I have this. I have all of these except for the black swan image. If I can, wait, God damn it.
Are
Okay.
these all taken with different cameras as well?
I think it's all taken by the same person. So this one is the one on the bottom left. This one here.
I don't even see the water in there. It looks like it's on snow.
If you squint, you can just see the horizon behind the oil rigs, and so they say that it's say that it's proof of flat Earth, despite these oil rigs being like this one is known as the flat swan, I think, because
I heard that one before.
yeah, and the point that I'm trying to get to here, rather laboriously maybe, is that when it comes to images that show that the Earth is, when it comes to the black swan images at least, that show that the Earth is apparently flat, you've got a lot of distortion in the image. When it comes to images that show the Earth as a globe, whilst you may sometimes have a bit of distortion, like this one here, you can get some really crisp images which show objects disappearing bottom first.
No. So the only problem I have with things like that disappearing over the horizon bottom first is the fact that, like, say it's 3 miles away and you see things disappearing like Bocks and that. It's like if it was already curving 3 miles away, then to me I'd imagine that it'd be a small ball.
Well,
So, I mean, to already be curving at 3 miles.
Well, it depends on how much curve, and we can actually calculate this using curve calculators. There's a so if I bring up the I'll bring up a very simple curve calculator, because the Metabunk one gets very complicated, but we'll bring up this one. And I just realized that I've got too many tabs open. Alright, so I just realized, I also realized that I'm using Firefox on this one. Where's Firefox?
So what would the... Sorry, I'm sort of coming at it from a non... I don't understand myself, but 3 miles away, how much would the Earth have, say, started to drop away from your view?
So
the three of it,
Yeah. So if we calculate the amount of curvature at 3 miles away, firstly there's some. So it's not, well, actually let's just give a target eye height of 0, right? And calculate. So after 3 miles, you get 6 feet of hidden distance, right? And
which I would say, although it's a tiny amount, there's still a noticeable amount to your eye 6 miles away. 6 feet is actually, that's my height. So even if a ship was going over that, not many small boats are much higher than 6 feet tall, apart from the mast. And then it goes away, do you know what I mean? So it's always small ships that you see. Do you know what I mean? Like the further away you get, the bigger the ship it is. So yeah, I'd even say 3 miles away, 6 feet. That's a hell of a drop. Like even if the like we say the ball is big, but not many ships with a little hull are much higher than 6 feet. So that's where they start to.
It also depends on other things, like your elevation will make a difference, and that's one.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that you have to take into account. So the 6 feet that I'm talking about here is if you're at an elevation of just nothing, right?
Yeah, like your worm's eye view.
Yeah, basically. And it also, there's heaps of things. So firstly, you need to take into account the distance to the object. And so if we say, let's say 9 miles, and we give a eye height of 6 feet. I don't know why it said vaccine there. then we get a drop of 24 feet. And that's on a globe the size of radius of 3,000. Oh, no, not 3,000. 6,000. Is it 6,731 kilometers, or is it 6,371 kilometers? I forget. Also, Rachie, small question: do you prefer working in miles or kilometers?
Miles for me.
Okay, bugger.
I'm not good at kilometers.
I much prefer metric.
Yeah,
it's the way that I've been raised.
UK, England, should I say? We're still in miles.
Okay, so getting back to the topic at hand. This is the amount that, like, I can input any distance, and then you get the amount of drop that you should have, and it is something that does start accumulating after a while, right?
Yeah.
And so it's one of
the
the
only thing I don't get with it, like, is how the curve moves. So, like, if you go up in elevation, it's less curved. Like,
okay,
you can see further. So, like, that curve kind of flattened out almost.
Okay.
And I've had people try and explain it to me, but I still don't fully understand it.
Yeah, I can try and explain it. So, essentially, when you get higher in elevation, the distance to the horizon increases. Because the way that I can probably... this doesn't really give a great... no, I can't play around with this. Paint stream! Alright. So, the reason why the distance to the horizon increases is simply because if we're on a globe, here we go, and we've got a person. The sticker's going to be a person. And so
if that was the person there, and then you made him go higher, wouldn't that curve be closer to him?
No, because as we go higher, right? I need to make this. Geez, working with them. Oh, there we go. Nice. So as you get further, right? The curve, as you get higher, the curve gets further away. Maybe I should use different colors, but so here with this one, the curve is about here, or the horizon is about here. With this one, the horizon is about here-ish. And as I go, like, you start to notice it more if I were to go all the way up here, where the curve or the horizon would be closer to here. Does that make sense?
Kind of. They all look like they're joining in the same place on the ball, like.
That's because...
Like, they all look like they meet the same tangent and then go off.
That's because I'm using very thick lines. If I...
It probably doesn't help that it's a small ball there either, does it, though? To be fair. Like, for a person, there wouldn't be that size on the globe, would there?
Yeah, so this will probably illustrate it best, right? So here, if you're at this height, your horizon will be here. If you're at this height, then your horizon will be here. Does that illustrate it better?
I'm not sure. I'm still not fully understanding, because, like, if you was to calculate from the top down, that looks like more steep drop than the other one.
Oh yes.
You know what I mean? Like, the line from the top looks steeper, like, so therefore the circle, like, at the end of the circle is closer than the other one almost. It kind of looks like.
I mean, well, this is an exaggeration.
Because it's like a steeper drop.
Yeah, well, this is an exaggeration because, I mean, if you're at this height here, the first one, you're about the height of the ISS. But the principle still applies.
Yeah, true. That's like what Neil deGrasse Tyson says, ain't it, where he says like the ISS is 2 millimeters above a beach wall. So it's kind of like a similar thing. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So the idea is that as you get higher, the horizon gets further away just simply because you're able to see over more of the curve. And now you might ask, why can't you see the Earth curving or the horizon curving? And that is a question that a lot of flat earthers ask. And the reason why is because it is still a very big ball. And
Yeah.
you have to go up very high to be able to actually see the horizon curving. And that's actually the next bit of...
No, sorry, mate, you carry on. I jumped in there.
I was just going to say, the next bit of evidence that I'm going to move on to is the horizon curving. That's if you want to move on to that. If you have no more questions about...
No, I don't think so. I mean, with the horizon curving and that, my mum says that she's seen the curve from the airplane, but I've never seen it.
Well,
she says she has, but I've never seen it personally, so...
Well, it is a very interesting sort of thing, and I will actually bring up an image of the horizon curving from an airplane, or actually a video, should I say. And when it comes to the horizon curving from an airplane, the reason why you sometimes do and sometimes don't is simply because of cloud cover. And sometimes the horizon can be very blurry, and it's very hard to tell if it's curving when it's blurry. But when you do get a clear horizon and no cloud cover, you can sometimes see there's a curve to the horizon. And Speak True sounded like he wanted to jump in.
No, I mean, all I wanted to say, mate, was say Rachie and some other flat earthers obviously bring up Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he fully well knows we live on a globe, but I would not take what he said in that one little soundbite as evidence to what height you can see the curve. He wasn't at the height that Felix was at, Felix Baumgartner, and I've seen a direct quote from Felix, and he did see the curve at that height. Do you know what I mean? So, just because Neil deGrasse Tyson said it, most of the time flat earthers disagree with 99% of what he says, and then you cannot cherry pick that one thing that he might have got a little bit wrong.
No. I know what you mean, because he still said it's a globe, don't he? So it's kind of weird to cherry pick one bit and then not actually listen. I know what you're saying, because it does make sense,
Yeah, exactly. So, have you heard of Mage? Rachie?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so this may be a little bit redundant bringing this up, but the idea here is that when you get to altitudes that the Mage balloon is at, and the great thing about the Mage balloon is it has these strings here that are tight to bit. Basically, even though the strings are slightly curved, basically these strings in reality are completely straight. And it's just to give you an idea of...
Yeah, it's just the barrel distortion.
Yeah, to help you correct for it. And here we've got a horizon that, to me, looks very curved. I don't know if that looks curved to you, but looks pretty curved to me.
No, it does look like ages. Sometimes it can show flat and then curve, flat and then curve.
Well, when it comes to Mage, it depends what you're comparing it to, or what you're comparing the.
I was just trying to get lines in the middle. So.
Yeah. So.
In the middle of them two.
Yeah. So when you actually get it in between these two, then it does look rather curved. I think.
Yeah, those two straight lines are the evidence that there is no barrel distortion. Once those two lines actually start moving, then yes. But when there's a perfect curve in the middle of those two perfectly straight lines, you know, I've heard obviously you say the word optical. That is unfortunately just a flat earther's phrase. And, you know, everything is optical, but when you've taken as many things out of the parameters as to like, is this barrel distortion, which those two taut wires prove there is no distortion, then, you know, that is curvature that you're seeing. Yeah, there is. Like, it does. Yeah, there definitely is, and it still does distort. But I think it's, you know, each kind of frame, when you look at it, when there is the least distortion with those wires, mainly you will see a curve. But you're right, you know, there will be distortion.
I haven't actually checked that actually, because I have like seen flat horizons in between, but I haven't actually checked whether that bottom line was distorted in them ones actually. So you actually bring up a good point there for me to look at.
Yeah. And one of the things that a lot of people are bringing up in chat is how distortion works on fisheye lens. So I think it's barrel distortion is the one that we should be looking at. So when a line is actually below the center of the frame, it should be rather than getting a curve like you'd expect on a globe, you'd actually expect the opposite. And that is a curve, an inverted curve. And if you don't get that inverted curve when it's below the central frame, when it comes to things like this, when it comes to, like, when this loads, oh, perfect. You see how we don't get an inverted curve like you'd expect with distortion to, you know, this...
yeah, like, because that barrel distortion thing, it should be, like, concave, shouldn't it, down the bottom?
Yep.
Concave or convex? Convex.
Yeah, whereas in reality, it's not as... So the curve isn't as prominent, at least I don't think so, as when it was in the center. But you still get a slight curve here when it's in the bottom of the frame. Whereas if it were due to barrel distortion, then you shouldn't see that.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because it should be like twisted the other way, like going up.
Yeah.
Kind of like a wide angle lens does when it distorts, like, and it goes all different up and down, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've got
I think you should look at it like percentages. You know, like how often does it match the globe reality, and how often does it maybe distort a little bit? But when you look at it in that center of frame, there is a curvature there.
Yeah, there's actually something, I don't know if it's still up on YouTube. I'll see if I can find it. Whilst I'm... Hey, Seek Truth, Speak Truth, if you want... Whilst I'm looking for things to... looking for links, do you mind speaking?
Yeah, of course. So... obviously kind of still speaking about curvature of Earth, I suppose. And I often bring up in my old videos, well, all of my videos, that nobody has ever proven that the Earthrise photo is a faked image. And I know that you have ideas that, what was it? Obviously, you know, there was no such thing as CGI when the Earthrise original photo was taken. It was in black and white.
You say that, but I've got a video that says different.
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing this up. So for me to understand, like, your point of view as to why that image could or is faked, if you know what I mean, because I personally really do look at that image as a pinnacle of what humanity has done, and nobody has ever been able to prove it as a fake image.
Yeah, but have they been able to prove it real?
Yeah, I mean...
Because you've got specialists saying you that can, like, tell whether something's fake or real. So they should be able to
That's what I mean.
tell whether it's
That's
fake
what I
or real.
mean. And I'm sure there's many a conspiracy theorist that really loves cameras and know how they work. And they would have probably sat there and tried to prove it was a fake image themselves. Most news people, do you know what I mean? At the time these images were taken, people tried to prove them as fake then. And nobody could. And I think it would be prevalent. There would be people out there, people that really do know about how imagery is taken on film, and come forwards and say, no, this was doctored, this was faked. But people fall into the trap of the blue marble. Oh, it is faked because it had to be. But it's because he was talking about the satellite images going round that wrap round the Earth. So yes, that did have to be photoshopped because he had to stitch it together. But he was commenting about that. But there are full photos, full images of a globe, and they are not CGI. They are not photoshopped, if you know what I mean. Like, they're real, and not one person has ever proven otherwise.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I mean, if like you've got all these people who do all these special things and can tell whether they're fake or not, why haven't they already determined that it's fake? But then why haven't they come out and say that it's real either, and I can prove it by doing my, the special stuff that they do to determine whether it's fake or not?
Well, the reason why
To be honest,
Oh, you can go.
You carry on, dude.
Okay. The reason...
You go, man. This is your show.
Okay, so...
I'll just step back every time you talk.
Okay, sorry. So the reason why I'd say that they haven't come out and said, oh, this is real and we can prove it, is because they have more important things to do, right? And it's one of them things where, as a space agency, what are you going to do? Are you going to spend your time responding to every skeptic that's skeptical of what you are doing, or are you going to spend time trying to figure out new things? And when it comes to things like NASA, things like SpaceX, they're probably going to choose the latter. And that doesn't mean that there aren't some people that will take a bit of time to respond to skeptics, but they're very few and in between when it comes to people that are actually working at NASA.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, a lot of Globers are quite smart. Like, I was wondering, like, why none of them might have done it, because they're all good with the technology and all things like that. Because they do like a lot of digging, so they could like do that, couldn't they? If they really wanted to.
Science always tries to debunk itself, Rachie. What I've realised, say when Einstein or even Newton came up with his laws of gravity, but people would have gone out of their way to try and prove him wrong, try and be the one that their name goes in history. Thousands and thousands of people, and they all realised, you know what, this guy's right. And then Einstein came along, and thousands of people would have tried to prove him wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, it takes a lot for a scientist to accept, okay, you got that right, it's time for me to learn something else or discover something else. Do you know what I mean? So if gravity and everything was all faked, it would have come out a long time ago, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I did think like gravity was fake and that, but then like I think Conspiracy Cat's video, and he was like showing me the Cavendish and how they basically get the same result every time, and that made me think a bit, because like if they get the same result every time, then obviously there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And that's how they measure like the planets, and how they know when eclipses are, and how they know how big the planets are and how much they weigh. Like, that one equation basically, is the maths to the universe in a way. Everything matches what we see, or as far as I know. That's why it works.
I actually have real quick, I have a video somewhere on my computer. Oh wait, no, that's actually, don't worry. It was another video that I've, that's somewhere, not on my computer, that I was going to bring up, to do with gravity. But whilst I'm bringing that up, there is one thing that I want to quickly say about gravity and trying to disprove it. And they are currently, and when I say they, I'm talking about scientists, they're currently trying to disprove Einstein's theory of general relativity, and it's been a real pain because every time it's put to the test, it's been incredibly accurate, and it's been accurately predicting what we'd expect to see. But the problem is that it predicts is that there's problems that it runs into in the sort of theoretical. When I say theoretical, I'm using it in a sort of layman's way rather than a scientific way. But there are problems that it runs into when it comes to things that it expects to see, and it's like, okay, this would be really weird if we actually did see this.
I'll be back in.
So yeah, there are problems with scientific things, but with scientific theories, but it's one of the.
I mean, to me, I know there's like a 9.8 meters per second squared down, but it's just like when they talk about bending space time and things like that, it's like I don't understand how you can bend space and time, like how a mass can actually manipulate pretty much empty space. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that is always really confusing things to a lot of people. And I went too far back. But yeah, like things can be confusing at times, and just because something is confusing doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
And
it just seems like almost illogical. Like, but that's probably just to me and like, other people. But like some people it might seem logical, but to me it just seems, because space is meant to be a vacuum, and like I don't see how you can bend a vacuum. Do you know what I mean? With the mass, like if we actually had a vacuum here on Earth and we put a mass in it, technically we've got space, we've got time because we've got the vacuum, and we've got time. The mass doesn't bend space-time, so.
Well, the way that space-time is generally represented is a field rather than actual matter, and so when you have a sort of dip in the field, that's that curves that field, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean, because me and Professor Phil Bell was on about that before, and to me, I have to think of it as like a laser field. So like, if you was like going in them films where they got like lasers in front of the bank vault, and like to me, I said to him, the only way I could probably get my head around it is if it was like a laser field, and then your finger moved the laser field, which caused the marble to run down the laser like an accelerate. And he says he likes the analogy and that, like, but it still doesn't like. I still don't understand how like that could make things accelerate.
And one of the things about arguing,
possibly orbit.
I didn't actually say something. It was a video that decided it wanted to not be on mute. There's a particular thing that I have to thank FTFE for. And I think it's right here. Although we haven't added in 5 seconds. Jeez.
Watch this video.
First, we weigh a small lead pyramid to measure the force.
Okay, so I'll mute the ad so that I don't get imagine getting copyright claimed by an ad.
Between it and the Earth. Its weight is 150.
So maybe I should actually explain what I'm showing here. So firstly, this is just a bit of extra evidence for gravity or being mass attracting mass. And the reason why I'm having...
Yeah, I've actually seen this. They put something underneath and it changes the number or something on the scale.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good evidence.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that actually.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, Rachie. Hopefully someday you'll look back on this and you'll look at these things and be like, oh my god, like, that was another one. That was another proof. That was another bit of evidence. They just all add up so much that it's difficult to deny the globe.
So it's difficult to deny mass attracting mass with that experiment. I remember I was talking about this with somebody before, but I can't remember if I had an answer to it or not, but I don't think I did.
Yeah, well, it's one of them things where, I think that everybody at some point in their life has beliefs that they eventually look back on and then say, "I was stupid for believing that." I mean, that's what a lot of flat earthers, I'd say, are like. They look back on their belief of the globe and then they say that I was stupid for believing that. And then you've got people like Seek Truth, Speak Truth here that look back on when they're a flat earth and say, I was stupid for believing in flat earth. And for me, I've got my own share of things that I used to believe. I used to believe that. Now, I wasn't necessarily anti-vax, but I did believe that vaccines weren't, like the flu vaccine, wasn't a good thing because I thought, well, it's basically giving you the flu, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not a good thing. However, looking back, I'm like, why did I think that? That didn't really have any grounding in reality. And then there's other things like I used to believe that 9/11 was an inside job. I used to believe that the moon landings were faked. And now I don't believe any of that because I've actually looked into some of the stuff and gone, well, actually, no, that's... I was wrong on that.
It's exciting to believe these things sometimes. Do you know what I mean? It adds a little bit of excitement and... you can't blame someone for believing in it. Apparently, I heard the other day 45% of people still don't believe in the moon landings, and so it's still big numbers.
Yeah.
But see, that's what confuses me as well. If you don't believe in the moon landings, then why would you believe the Earth's round?
Because
if they're lying to you about going to the moon, why would they be telling you the truth about anything else?
Well, the reason for that...
That's why
you
carry on, buddy.
Oh, you continue. I'll add what I've got afterwards.
Cheers, mate. Now, I was going to say, that's why I honestly think the moon landing denial, is a bigger worry than belief in flat Earth, because it will lead 90% of people to flat Earth because they already are in that mindset of NASA are lying to us, and then obviously you might hear a conspiracy guru video of his song of him singing that there's no real pictures of Earth, and believe it. So if we can actually show people that we did go to the moon, it will stop a lot of flat earthers believing what they believe. But yeah, people are conspiratorial minded. You can't stop people from being so. I think it's just a distrust of the governments, not really trusting what is going on, and then you start looking for things and it builds up in your mind, and suddenly the whole world is out there trying to kill you. But it's about being able to discern what really is a conspiracy and what isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to tell though, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like you said yourself, I used to believe in, well, still do actually to a degree, but I used to believe different things. I used to believe aliens existed. I believed in 9/11. I believed I believe
aliens existed. Yeah, I think it'd be stupid to say aliens don't exist, but I also don't think they visited Earth. Do you know what I mean? You'd be very naive to think that we were the only life form.
See, I used to think they did because of Area 51 and Roswell and all that.
No, there's nothing like that going on. But yeah, there has to be other life form out there, in my opinion. But can they ever reach us? I don't know.
Yeah, Well, I'd like to think that aliens. I'd like to think that we'll eventually make contact with aliens in one form or another. However, it's just a case of how common is life in the universe and how common is intelligent life in the universe. And it's really hard to tell if it's a common thing or if it's a rarity. And, I guess only time will tell.
One thing I always find strange, though, is because humans speak of, say, consciousness, and we are conscious, so therefore there must be a divine. But why aren't dogs and cats conscious? Like hamsters, surely they have just as much of a consciousness as us. It doesn't, they might not think of the beginning of the universe, but they have a consciousness just the same as we do, in my opinion.
True.
Yeah, I think they have consciousness too.
But getting back to the moon landing things, because I want to answer why you can believe that the moon landings are fake, yet believe that the Earth is a globe. And the reason why I'd say is because when it comes to the moon landings being fake, like that doesn't mean it doesn't automatic. Like if let's say that the moon landings were fake, just for the sake of argument, then that doesn't mean that the Earth is suddenly flat.
Yeah. And I think there is a logical reason as to why they could have been faked. I don't know if anyone saw a video I did about the 12-year-old boy that debunked Flat Earth, but he brought up, you can understand why there could be a conspiracy because there was a race to get there. So say you could have an argument that America lied that they got there before Russia. There's a reason for it, even though there is no evidence that they didn't go, but there's a reason for the conspiracy mind. But for Flat Earth, why lie? Now I'm out this other side, people say it's to hide the crater. It's not, nothing about the science about the globe is to hide a crater or anything like that,
Yeah, well, that actually does bring me to a point that I want to ask Rachie, and this is, Rachie, when do you think they started, firstly, who do you think said that was trying to push the Earth being a globe, and when?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So, when do you think the globe Earth was pushed, and who do you think was pushing it?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I don't even know when the globe Earth came around. They say the Greek, but then they say it was actually before that. But then they actually say Christopher Columbus set out, and then he found out it was a globe. So I'm not actually entirely sure when it even came about,
Okay, so I'll try and clarify this up for you because there are a few misconceptions that a lot of flat earthers have about when it was discovered to be a globe. And it was about the time of the ancient Greeks, I think, about 600 BC. It was discovered to be a globe. And the way that they discovered that was essentially with lunar eclipses, and then I think in about 300 BC it might have been, you had Eratosthenes going and measuring the size of the Earth with two sticks, with two wells actually, and using the angles to figure that out. And a lot of people then go, well, if it was figured out to be, if the Earth was figured out to be a globe way back when, then why was it discovered by Christopher Columbus that the Earth was a globe? And it just wasn't discovered. Like, Christopher Columbus only discovered only discovered the Americas for the. And I'm trying to. I think it was Victorian world is the way to put it. So yeah, So he discovered the Americas. He didn't actually discover that Earth was a globe because, and that's something that scientists used to. I think it was scientists that used to push this to try and discredit religious people, right? By saying, well, your people believe that the Earth was flat, only 400 years ago. Why should we believe anything that you have to say now? And it was just something that got out of hand, and people actually took that as truth. And unfortunately, things like that do happen.
I heard once, Planarwalk, I don't know if you have more information on it, but when the kind of Big Bang was first conceived, it was almost made to confirm a creator, and then it was found out, that actually, like, it's much further back than we thought of, and then kind of science realised, like, oh, this is what happened, that was what happened. I don't know. I don't know if you had any more info on that. But...
So yeah, I'm trying to, because the person that actually,
they were like I'm sure they were like a Roman Catholic or I don't know, something.
Yeah.
It was almost postulated as to like this is how God created the universe. But like I say, science stepped in and worked out that it at least wasn't for 13.8 billion years. Do you know what I mean? And evolution has been in the way, and it wasn't Adam and Eve that gave birth to us all.
So the person who discovered the Big Bang Theory, right? And let me try and butcher this pronunciation, although it's George's Lemaitre. I'm not gonna. As I said, I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation. Let's call him Georges. He was a Belgian cosmologist, and a Catholic priest, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
And he discovered it in 1931. And yeah, when he actually discovered that, a lot of his peers were saying to him, "Hey, look, you've discovered proof that there's a creator." And he said, "No, I don't think so. Like, we'll keep this as just purely scientific, rather than trying to abstract it to that the universe was created."
Yeah, you can't take
But
that
isn't that
as
when it was created?
proof of creation. Yeah, I suppose, like as modern, as science would explain, that's how far back they can see, basically. But yeah, it's not proof of creation either. You can't look at it like that.
And it's also not proof against. Yeah, it doesn't disprove creation. And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of people make, and a lot of flat earthers make. Now, I don't know if Rachie is. Rachie, are you religious or not?
No, not really. I was christened as a baby, so I call myself Christian. But up until last year, I was actually an atheist and didn't believe in the creator.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
But you do now. You do now.
I believe in one now, yeah.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say that, like, a lot of people do make the mistake of thinking that things like science are against religion, and I don't think that's necessarily true. You've got a lot of religious scientists, and it may be that one day science discovers absolute solid proof that a god exists, or even multiple gods exist. Whereas a lot of people do try and make this dichotomy that science is just against God and is trying to get rid of God, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that it's just that we haven't found evidence for God. And when you don't find evidence for something, you generally dismiss it.
Even the word sort of atheist has been twisted, hasn't it? And made to sound so bad sometimes. But when in reality, like an atheist, if they were shown proof of a god, they'd believe in one. In my opinion.
Yeah.
But there's no harm in believing in creation. I want to believe it. So I'll still keep a little bit of my mind open to it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
There's no harm in wonder, is there? That's why I try and differentiate between globe and flat. You know, do you know what I mean? Between creation and flat Earth, because one can be disproven and proven, and one really can't. You know.
Mm. So
Yeah. To me, see the Big Bang as well. If you take the Big Bang and the heliocentric model, it doesn't necessarily say that there isn't a creator, because like the Big Bang is basically, to me, saying there is a creator, because before that they can't detect anything.
yeah, and
I don't think there's any wrong in thinking that.
Mm.
Like, as long as you can kind of accept that Big Bang happened 14.8 billion years ago, and evolution happened, and like nobody could say you're wrong. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
The only problem I have with the Big Bang is, like they say, first it was an explosion, then it was a collision, then it was a singularity. So they changed it that many times. Like, how did they not? If they could detect the Big Bang, how did they not know what it is? Why say an explosion, then a collision, now a singularity?
Well, again,
I
though,
don't
they say
understand how
like
they changed it.
explosion is the wrong word. Like
Yeah.
I'm quoting Neil deGrasse Tyson now, but like there's words that were used that put something in our head, but it wasn't an explosion.
So, but in my GCSE book, it says that it was an explosion.
But that was just the perception at the time, if you know what I mean. To a child, they're explaining it as an explosion because that's easiest for you to understand at the time. But kind of when you look more deeply into it, it can't be an explosion. But it was just the simplest way to explain it to you as a school child.
Yeah, the way that I'd explain it would be it's an expansion of space and time, right? And so it all came from a singularity and then rapid expansion, which a lot of people, when they think of rapid expansion, like they view it as an explosion, right?
Yeah, possibly. I can see how you might correlate that. Like, so it didn't grow slowly, expanded fast.
Yeah, it expanded pretty fast.
So I didn't know that. I was thinking it just expanded slowly, because like they say it was like 13.8 billion years ago or something.
Yeah, there was some from what people can tell, there was very rapid expansion, and then it slowed down. Like you see you can see these sort of graphs that they've got. I'll see if I can find it.
It was probably silent though, wasn't it? Like there was no sound.
Oh yeah, it would have been silent. I mean, technically, the cosmic background radiation, CMDR, cosmic microwave background radiation, is supposed. I suppose that could be the noise that it makes.
To the ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, like silent to the human ear.
So yeah, this is what the model is, basically, of how space expanded. So it expanded very quickly, slowed down, and then we're seeing this acceleration of expansion now. But it's always been expanding, just in different rates.
There was kind of a theory that it would all expand and then kind of re-implode and everything would start again, but I think that's gone out of the window now, hasn't it?
Yeah, like a lot of people are, like that was, basically the idea was that gravity would bring everything back together again. And then it would just, re-explode. And, I mean, that could still be the case, but dark energy is... we have no idea what that is, and we have no idea why it's causing the universe to expand. So, yeah, that's a bit annoying for that particular idea. And it does mean that heat
That's what I'm
It's
saying,
more of a
Rachie,
theory
like-
anyway, isn't it?
It's more, yeah.
Rachie, you're obviously trying to disprove gravity, but you need to be, coming up with hypotheses for dark energy and things like that. It's predictable. There's something there, but nobody really knows. I don't think what it is. That's the frontiers you need to be on.
Yeah, like one of the great things. Now, I don't think I'm ever going to publish a scientific paper, right? But one of the
Neither am I.
But one of the great things that getting into all this flat Earth stuff did teach me was about things like physics, and I think that if anything, I'm able to understand the universe just a little bit better, and I think that's always a good thing. And you never know, like maybe Rachie might be somebody to publish a scientific paper. Maybe I might eventually get the
No reason why not.
And
Yeah.
it's just as long as you as you're able to learn the stuff, and it can be hard, definitely. But if you learn the stuff, then yeah, you might actually be someone that could discover something new, and I think that's incredible.
That's
I couldn't, not me.
It's not you.
Some people think, obviously, like more flat earthers, that they think that it's a closed book. Nobody can get in science, nobody can change anything, but that's not the case at all, is it? Like, I'm pretty sure you don't need a PhD, you don't need this. Like, if you could come up with something that disproves the globe and disproves gravity, and it would be embraced. No one's gonna hide it away. Like, I believe personally that sort of stuff may go on in the pharmaceutical businesses, things like that. Scientists are involved, but that doesn't mean the scientists are bad. They're doing their best every single day they go into work, and that's the same with any scientist that's ever lived their life. There's bad scientists, bad people that are scientists, should I say, but science isn't bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's too many people doing it, and they're all getting the same results.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just ranted.
Don't worry, like I think it was a good rant.
I'm like sitting here, and sometimes I think like I'm literally like talking to myself in my head, and then suddenly I'm like, oh shit, I'm live and there's 75 people listening.
One thing that I did want to say is that, even when it comes to flat Earth, like, I think that one of the really disappointing things about flat Earth is that a lot of flat earthers don't try and discover anything, and I think that's really disappointing because there's a lot to discover, especially if the Earth is flat. Then there's so much to discover, yet flat earthers usually sit around trying to prove the Earth is flat rather than trying to explain a lot of different things about the Earth being flat. There are a couple of people that do go out and attempt to make maps. I think it was... Who was that guy that... Seek Truth, Speak Truth. Do you know of the guy that tried to make a flat Earth map but failed?
Oh, yes, mate. I can't remember his name, but he was the original, like, ex-flat earther. And he basically got hounded off YouTube. He spent months trying to recreate a flat Earth map, and he eventually caved in and just turned around and was like, guys, I'm wrong. Like, I've realised the Earth isn't flat. It's impossible. But he was off YouTube. But he's still got about, like, 60, 70,000 subscribers. Like, he was a huge flat Earther to leave, if you know what I mean.
Oh, Tiger Dan.
Much bigger than I ever was. Like, Tiger Dan, that's it. Yep. But yeah, unfortunately, he's not still around. I wish he was. But he worked out, and I think Rachie has tried to do this with mapping out where the continents go, the sizes of continents, distances between the countries. As soon as you put that on a flat planet, get in the southern hemisphere, and it does not work. It just does not work.
It's Antarctica, the one that I'm having like a problem with. Like, I'm wondering if that's why they put Antarctica as a nice wall around the edge, because I can't seem to get the distance to match between Antarctica and Australia, Antarctica and Brazil, and Antarctica and South Africa.
Yeah.
Because like on that projection, which it is, it's a globe projection. So Antarctica is shown as an ice wall, but in reality, like, it's the bottom point as the North Pole is. But it's just shown, like, there are ones where you can get it. So the North Pole is the ring around the edge. If you do a Antarctica as the middle point of your map, suddenly the North Pole is the ring around the edge. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just the way it was.
That's exactly what I've been doing, trying to put different places in the centre, like, to try and make it work. But I haven't been able to do it.
The North Pole is given bias over the South Pole, basically. So we look at the Northern Hemisphere above the Southern. Do you know what I mean? Like, but it doesn't matter. Like, each one is at the top.
Yeah, I think that when it comes, like, one of the things I'd really like to do, and my time is running out to be able to do this, because essentially in December of this year, there's actually going to be a solar eclipse over Antarctica. And
Whoa.
Yeah, I'd love to go to Antarctica just for that solar eclipse and to, talk to some of the scientists down there. But I think the trip would cost something like $20,000 or something like that.
It is a lot of money, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unless we're obviously flat earthers will be like, nobody can go to Antarctica. But, it just costs a bit of money, but there's nothing stopping you from going there. I think even in Beyond the Curve, I think it was 15 Degree Bob was like, we're all getting our tickets together, we're going to go on a cruise to Antarctica and prove the Earth's flat. And I'm just thinking, dude, like, 1 minute you're saying no one's allowed there, do you know what I mean? And then you're basically crowdfunding to get a bloody cruise together. Like,
That's a good point.
Yeah, I actually, I do think that if Bob really wanted to, that he could probably go to Antarctica. He could probably, I think he could definitely raise enough money to go to Antarctica. He'd just need to sell
he could easily do it.
He'd just need to sell that ring laser gyro, right?
It's not really so, is it?
I don't know if he's already sold it or not, but
no, it's not easy. It's somebody else's.
It was someone else's, wasn't it? Yeah.
It's gone back to the owner, apparently.
Ah, okay. Yeah, like,
we
what's that?
Oh no, sorry, mate. I was going to say, like, a lot of flat earthers will say, "Oh, you only ever bring up the Bob gyroscope incident," but it's because it was obviously on TV, But look at someone like Wolfie, 6020, where he'll show you the exact reasons as to why that gyroscope works. It is picking up a 3 axis rotation, matching exactly what we should see. He will then plot out on the globe where you travel. On a flat Earth, when they always bring up, there's no such thing as a flight between Australia and Chile. A, there is. You can get direct flights. And B, if that was on a flat Earth, no plane would ever be able to reach there without, like, refueling on the way, because they're so far apart.
Yeah. And you wouldn't get the... one of the things that you also have to consider is the flight companies, they want to make as much money as possible. And the best way to efficiency of both time and fuel is something that companies really want to try and, So if a plane is efficient on time, then they're going to use that plane over other ones because, you know, if you want to go to, let's say you want to go from New Zealand to Santiago or something like that, and there's a plane that can take you really fast over there because, you know, it's whatever. They'll probably try and use that plane for other flights in the northern hemisphere as well, and you'd be seeing flights from you know, let's say Beijing to America that are taking like only a couple of hours.
Yeah.
But
and I do know a guy who's a pilot as well, and like he says there's kind of like certain areas where you're not allowed to fly, but that's because they're so far away from rescue, if you know what I mean. Like, so, you know, he's got a commercial pilot's license, and there are routes you have to take because they might be within 2 hours distance of if you have a crash that you'll be saved. Do you know what I mean? So people go, oh, why aren't you flying over this bit? Why aren't you flying over that bit? But it's because it's bloody treacherous and there's no one there to save you if you crash. Do you know what I mean?
Is Rach?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but like, there's something about that as well, like how sometimes planes disappear, don't they? Even like when they're flying over the normal route, they still disappear and never to be found.
Oh yeah, that does happen. Like I was actually going to bring up flight MH370, or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, I don't have found that yet, but it's one of them things where it disappeared, and I mean, if it had you know, you'd probably get more if flights if flights go missing in an area where it's harder to find them. You know, that would happen more. Or flights flew in places where it's you know, where it's got a much longer rescue time. Then you'd get that more because. Yeah,
anything could have happened to it by then, couldn't it? You know, if hours have passed, you may never see it again, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Bermuda Triangle, because everything always goes missing there as well, doesn't it?
Well, the Bermuda Triangle is actually... it's actually a very interesting thing that people have actually... worked out that the Bermuda Triangle isn't actually much worse than other areas. It's just like got a lot of traffic going through it.
I don't know. I think a lot of
never
things have
knew that.
disappeared.
Well, I
suppose what... You carry on, mate. Sorry.
I was just going to say, well, they've worked it out, and they've worked it compared to other areas. You know, things go disappearing in other areas as well as the Bermuda Triangle, and the rate of things disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle is basically the same as everywhere else.
Oh, so it's not
got more
actually
traffic,
that
I
special then.
suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more like, say, there's more crime going on in London and hardly anything going on in the villages.
Yeah.
I mean,
But isn't all those dials meant to go all funny as well from the magnetic field or something? I've heard things like the dials go all like wonky.
I don't necessarily think that's true. Like a lot of times you'll hear people try and explain something like the Bermuda Triangle with these wacky out there explanations that make for a great story, however don't necessarily line up with reality.
So more like a conspiracy again.
Yeah.
I think things just build up, don't they?
Yeah,
You know, there's a lot of stories. Obviously, a lot of things happened within that sort of triangle. So over the years, a story has built up around it because a lot does happen there. But yeah, I suppose it has to be looked past that it's mystical or something else is going on. It's just the high levels of traffic.
Well, it's like a really good one is the Simpsons predictions, right? Like, that's a really good one to look to, because a lot of people will say, oh, the Simpsons predicted this. Whereas in reality, no, they didn't. A lot of the things that they say that they predicted, they didn't really. Like, the whole Trump being president thing. I mean, I saw a thing the other day, or was it last night? Might have been last night, where it was someone holding up a Trump for president sign back in the year 1999, right? And it said Trump for president 2000. I don't know who's calling me. Someone is calling me for some reason.
I'll be
so
back in 2 seconds, mate.
all right. Ow, ow, my foot. All right, that was just someone calling me to about something. I don't know if any. Rachie, were you talking whilst I was on the phone, or?
No.
Okay, so it's basically silence. I'm surprised that we have 88 viewers. Well, 87 now. Damn, I should have stayed silent more.
Sorry, I stepped away there.
Yeah, funnily enough, you had to step away at the same time that I had to step away. So I had no one to keep the...
Oh, God.
I was hoping that Rachie had kept the chat entertained, but...
You should have
I'm
started,
not an
like,
entertainer.
beatboxing or, like, rapping or something.
Oh, if I rap, that we'll all leave.
Basically, you're in command of my stream for a second.
What, me?
No, Rachie.
Oh, no, well, Rachie is, yeah, I was going
I
to
could have
say.
said anything.
What do you want to talk about? Like, what sort of other things do you have? You know, maybe you're thinking, no, I still can't accept that globe. Like, what else is hanging over your head?
What makes me think it's flat? Well, just
Yeah, just
different
like
things. Like, you see satellites attached to balloons, so that makes you question things. And then, like, you've got things like Sabine Hosenfelder, I think her name is. She says gravity isn't a force, and then you've got like some pilots saying it's flat.
Okay, so I'd like to talk about the gravity not being a force, because that is a thing that's often misunderstood, and it can be very, very confusing, right? So
Yeah.
it's much like the way that I'm just trying to think of what it's called. Centrifugal force, right? Centrifugal force isn't actually a force, but it's what's called a fictitious force, and the same goes for gravity. And the reason why gravity is called a fictitious force is simply because if you are in free fall, there is no difference than if you're in the absence of a gravitational field. So if you weren't in a gravitation...
Say that again, please.
So if you just didn't have any gravity around you or anything, it would feel no different than if you were in free fall.
Yeah, so that's what confuses me, because like I was watching things about Einstein and that, and he was saying like when you're actually falling, gravity's not actually acting on you or something.
Yeah, so it's
So
what
when you drop a
I would
bottle
say,
of water
though,
with
is, like,
holes in the
whether
water
it's a
coming out the
force,
hole.
whether it's a force or not, does not change the fact that it exists. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's still predictable. They're just a human perception of what is a force, what isn't. But really, it's still there. It's still used and used for maths. If you know, do you know what I mean, Rachie? It doesn't.
Yeah, like
Honestly,
the
it
fact that
doesn't
maths
really
works and it
matter
can
whether
predict
it's a
things and
force
that.
or not.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I know that, but like the fact that that's not really a force, and then buoyancy is really a force, makes me think, well, how can buoyancy be the opposite force to gravity if gravity isn't a force?
the reason why buoyancy is a force and why gravity isn't is the way that, so buoyancy is a force creator. So water, right, creates a force because it's being pulled, or we say that it's being pulled down by gravity. It creates a force on objects that are in it, and that force, like any object in water, will actually have buoyancy acting upon it. There'll be a force of buoyancy acting upon it, and that buoyancy force pushes it upwards against the force of gravity. Base that's pulling it down. Essentially, I don't know if I explained that well enough, but it's because it's more something being pushed away that it's actually a force rather than it falling towards Earth or anything. And
Yeah, I think I know what you mean, but like it just confuses me that that's a force and then gravity isn't a force, and yet they're both opposite, like, forces, but one isn't a force and one is.
yeah, basically the reason why one is a force and one isn't is essentially it's the mechanisms behind it. Because buoyancy, there's a mechanism that actually produces a force, then that is considered an actual force. Whereas because because gravity operates in a different way to buoyancy, the way that gravity operates is things will appear to be attracted to the Earth, but from the perspective of the person that's falling towards the Earth, it's basically the Earth is just getting closer to them, right? Then that's not considered an actual force. Gravity's not considered an actual force. Just appears to be a force.
It's just mind bending though, ain't it?
It's
It is. That's so
Can't get my head
confusing.
around it.
it is really
I can't
confusing.
Right. Yeah. But that's why, sorry, Rachie, but that's why I keep relaying back to the fact that it is, more or less a constant that is measurable. When, say, like an aeroplane, when you have the what they call, like when they do the drop, that's like a 0G aeroplane. I suppose like that is almost, yeah, I mean, like that is almost proof of gravity in a way, because when it's matching that, whether it's a force or not, I don't know, but when it matches, you're in free, you're floating.
Hmm.
Those planes.
See, to me,
work
that's
without
just
gravity.
to me, that's like when the plane starts heading down and accelerating down, everything inside goes up. So to me, it's like the acceleration down causes things to go up, kind of like if you was to drop a jar with coffee beans or something and you accelerated it really fast down, they'd all fly up, wouldn't they?
Well, the reason
Well, I
why...
know the other day, actually, you mentioned, like... No, sorry, Planner, you carry on, mate.
I was just going to say, the reason why things sort of go up is when something goes down, or why things float when something is falling in free fall, is because is simply because, or at least the gravity explanation is, now if we treat gravity like a force, gravity is pulling on every single thing at the same rate, so they're all falling at the same rate rather than it being pulled with extra force because the entire thing is being pulled with, if you know what I mean. It's like just all falling at the same rate. Everything's being pulled at the same rate towards Earth. And that's why you get floating.
Yeah. Another thing, actually, because Rachie, you did mention the sort of classic is Earth rising up at the rate of gravity, so that's what's causing things to lower. But then what made me think is like, how do planes then still stay up if Earth is rising at 9.8 meters per second? How's that plane staying above that still? Do you know what I mean? I know you did mention that the other day, but
She dropped out. I'd actually say that when it comes to that, you can also consider the atmosphere rising up at 9.81 meters per second squared.
oh yeah, of course, yeah, that would cancel it out, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but then you'd probably. Oh yeah, no, that would all work because yeah, the atmosphere would. You'd expect to see like if the Earth is being pushed up or going up at 9.81 meters per second squared, you basically expect to see everything that we see, except the difference would be that it wouldn't be a globe; it would be flat.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that, mate. You've taught me something there. Yeah, so I suppose that would still sit in that air, and just the atmosphere is rising up with the Earth, so the plane would rise as well.
Yeah, there would be a lot of, although I think there'd be a problem with the speed that would be going. I'm not sure how things would break when you get up to speeds of, let's see, it's 9.8 meters.
The plane would have to be built differently, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and you'd go.
Plus we'd feel that, wouldn't we? Because it's acceleration, and we feel acceleration.
Yeah, so after 60 seconds, you'd be going 588 meters per second squared. After an hour, you'd be going 35,000 meters per second. After
Oh yes.
after a day,
Catch the speed of light up, wouldn't you?
yeah, after a day, it would be 847,000 meters per second, and after a year, you'd be going 309 million meters per second. And what is the speed of light? 300. It's 299 million meters per second. So after a year, you'd be at the speed of light.
Yeah, it couldn't be happening.
Yeah. And so that would be.
You were talking about satellites.
Oh yeah, that's another thing I wanted to get to.
Yeah. I mean, like, say, obviously there are such thing as kind of things up on balloons, satellites that get sent up and they're on balloons. They're not in the, orbit of Earth as such. They're obviously still within Earth's atmosphere. But I think even, was it Amazon we're looking into, like doing Amazon Cloud or something and having all these balloons up. But in all reality, that's just probably a much cheaper method to do this sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are such thing as satelloons, but there's still satellites out there as well.
Yeah. I'm going to show you this here. Oh, I'm going to mute it. Which, if we go fast forward a bit. So here we've got the two people took images or took video of the moon, right? And you can see an object basically going in front of the moon. And this object here looks very similar to the ISS. I mean, and the thing that they're using to see if this image was when this image would go, or when this thing would go past the moon, is they're using the ISS tracker.
But shouldn't the International Space Station be lighting up, like if it's in front of the moon, because the sun's meant to be lighting the moon, so shouldn't it be also lighting the International Space Station in front of it?
So the International Space Station is far closer to Earth than it is to the moon. So because the moon is very far away, the International Space
2 millimeters, remember?
Yeah, the International
Neil deGrasse Tyson 2 millimeters.
Yeah, so the International Space Station can be within Earth's shadow whilst the moon isn't.
Even though we can sometimes see things reflecting off planes and the sunlight reflecting off planes.
Yeah, well, this is taken during the night when the ISS would be in the Earth's shadow, because the ISS isn't far from the Earth. Yeah, that would be during daytime or even evening that Rachie is talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What do you think of the ISS then, Rachie?
Well, I did think it was like a fast plane kind of thing. Like it's just like an aircraft that flies really, really fast.
I can't remember what Red's rhetoric said about it, but I think he said that the speed of the ISS would have to be insanely fast. And I mean, it's when you look at the ISS here on this image, it doesn't look very aerodynamic at all.
No, you can. Yeah, I suppose you can see that is travelling very little air up there where that is, very little resistance.
Yeah. And planes do need to have air around it in order to generate lift, and thus it also needs to be aerodynamic. And there's all kinds of things that go into consideration of building a plane. It's actually amazing that humanity managed to figure it out.
I can't believe they're actually in it, aren't they?
It was.
What's that, Rachie?
The space shuttle, I think. The space shuttle. It looked like almost like a plane, and it had kind of wings on, and that was like one of the first things that went up there, and that was, I think, orbiting, and that was, looked like a plane or something.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, when you launch things, obviously it needs to be aerodynamic upon launch, but once it gets up to a certain height, then something being aerodynamic doesn't really matter.
It was all taken up in small parts, I suppose, wasn't it? But it's probably just part of human design, if you know what I mean. Like, kind of look like an aeroplane, but because people designed it and it was going up in the sky. But there's a lot more to it, if you know what I mean. It's just the way humans knew how to build a craft.
Oh, and Pixel 2 dominate.
So did build 2 of those?
Build 2 of what?
The International Space Stations.
No, only one has been built. This is just.
So what about the one underwater though?
The what?
The one in the water.
Well, that's where they practice. That's where so
they would have had to build 2.
I'm not sure that
that probably is like a movie set, if you know what I mean. Like, they'll just have certain areas, certain bits where they know they'll need to practice on. It wouldn't have, I don't think, been like a full-size ISS. I might be wrong, but one way of telling though the difference between when they're actually in the water and doing a spacewalk is in the water, the astronaut's head looks tiny, and that is due to the refraction of the water. But like when they're in space, their head looks like normal size.
one thing real quick I just want to say, they talked about the wings on the space shuttle, and that's for freefall. Like people in chat are saying that it's for when it enters back into the Earth's atmosphere, so yeah, I was just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, so...
They're actually ending it soon, though, aren't they? Like, is it 2025? Like, the whole...
I don't know.
Like, program is being ended?
Yeah, I don't know.
It is. It's being, like, decommissioned.
Okay. I might have to look into that.
That's pretty sad.
Yeah. But getting back to the topic at hand... so yeah, when it comes to... you're saying about in the water... Like, yeah, they do train in the water because, I mean, that's the easiest way to... I suppose you could try training in freefall, but then you only get, like, small bits of freefall, whereas in water, it's... You've got a lot more, you can train for a lot longer in water, basically.
Yeah, because like the free fall, you only like free fall for like 30 seconds or something, isn't it?
Yeah. And also, I do want to just say real quick, because a lot of people do bring up the whole, they say that when you see people on the ISS floating, that it's fake or something. And firstly, if you want to say that it's because they're in freefall, then, as I mentioned earlier, freefall, you can only last for about 30 seconds. You see them floating for a lot longer than 30 seconds. Some people will bring up people being on their... Some people say that they're on wires, but it doesn't explain why you can actually watch people move throughout the ISS. And it would be very hard for it to be on wires. Never mind the fact that there are other objects that are floating as well, which isn't that well explained by wires. I'll see if I can... Does anyone in chat... Oh wait. You'd have to send it to me on Discord.
There's loads of debunking videos, isn't there? There's so many debunking videos of them wire ones. Do you know what I mean? And again, it's the way these flat Earth channels just edit things together, and it looks like there's one when it looks like he grabbed a wire or something, but when you actually watch the debunks of these,
that's what made me not believe it.
Yeah,
and it honestly, Rachie, like if you see the debunk, I'm sure it might have been on Simon Dan or something, but when you actually, see what has gone on, it's nothing like that whatsoever. And again, like where it seems like there's a cut scene when that guy goes off, and it looks like he kind of disappears as he's going through the doorway, and everyone's like, "Oh, CGI!" Like, but really, like that was like a NASA cut because he'd gone off into that doorway for like a minute and then come back. So they'd just done like a split scene of like, "Oh, we're not going to leave you waiting for 20 seconds whilst he's not even there. We'll cut it until he comes straight back." But it's the way these guys edit these videos. There's always a debunk out there. And I used to look for the proof the ISS is fake, proof everyone's on wires. And of course, you're going to look and find things that make you think, oh yeah, of course, they didn't do that. But you honestly, you do have to at least look at the other side and understand the debunk of it, if you know what I mean. Like, there is always a reason for everything. There really is. I've never now, since I've come back to the globe, I've never seen anything that makes me question the globe again, because now I know how to understand and actually realise what is good evidence.
Yeah. Also, like, I'm showing a video on my screen, which is a person that's going through the ISS and giving a tour, and like, firstly, so the first explanation that flat earthers might give is the whole free fall, which, this is much longer than 30 seconds. The second explanation that they might give is that wires, which doesn't explain everything else that's just floating. The third explanation that you might give is that they're underwater, but if they're underwater, then that doesn't really explain how she's able to breathe without some kind of thing that allows her to breathe underwater.
So to me, I was thinking it was some sort of levitating thing. Because like sometimes as well, you'll see on the cameras that they'll go in certain parts, and the camera seems to like have dots or like star-looking things on it.
Well, video glitches happen.
I don't know if you've seen that.
Well, video glitches will happen all the time. That's just an inevitable thing of working with technology. I'm not exactly
So all the dots and that are like just like a glitch, because it didn't look like a glitch. It looked like almost like stars, but on the actual picture, like.
Okay, I'm not actually sure what you're referring to, but it could just... There's heaps of things that it could be. Like, it could be like, quite often when I find that flat earthers have said something about something on the ISS, most of the time it seems to be a video glitch. Just something that... Just an artifact of something like... something like encoding not working properly, or heaps of different things, any of the 1,000 things that it could be from encoding, and because you got an encoder, you got the information has to get sent to Earth, where there can also be loss of information and a number of different things.
Apparently the cameras don't last too long up there either, because of the radiation. Apparently it destroys the lens in the camera or something, so that made me wonder how these satellite cameras managed to stay up there.
Oh yeah, so one of the things that they have to do with technology on the ISS is it has to be more shielded than technology here on the ground because of radiation, and that is something that that will also, I assume, would apply to cameras as well. But yeah, as you can see, like that. I like how it put like a big black square over it. As you can see here, like as soon as there's a lot of... She spends a lot of time going around, and I don't think that there's any explanation that can be given for what we see. Well, I haven't heard any good explanation for what we can see here that doesn't, or that fits with a flat Earth. That fits with flat Earth, basically.
The only thing I can think of is like either it's levitating some way, or like they did the gravity film. I haven't actually watched it, but they've done like a gravity film, and they're meant to be like weightless, and like, but really it's all wires and tricks.
Well, again, like it doesn't seem like. Now, firstly, I suppose that there are a number of things that you could try to try for all this, but there's a lot of, like, if I play this again, you see a lot of different objects, and it's, things just float, right? Where is it? Yeah, all these wires here. There's a great shot where she bumped into a couple of wires, and they were floating. And I mean, you could try and say that it's fake, but you could try and say that it's fake due to it all being planned out and all that, but it just doesn't really make any... at that point, you could say that literally anything's fake, right? And I think
that's the thing, and it's hard to tell sometimes. Like, somebody sent me a video of this rocket launch I'm meant to be doing with these 4 new engines, and like it actually showed the rocket taking off with 4 engines, and I asked them, like, has any ever gone off with 4 engines before, and is that real? And they said no, but to me it did actually look real.
A rocket taking off. I mean, yeah, there are some things that can...
I think it's the army project.
Yeah, there are some things that can look pretty stunning, but in this, you've got to consider all the technicalities that would be required to fake something like this. Like, how much did Gravity cost? The film? Gravity budget. $100 million for.
And again, you got to ask yourself, why would they fake it? Why?
I don't have an answer for that.
And like,
sorry, yeah, that was a comment.
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it cost millions of dollars to fake. It cost millions of dollars to fake just this because the CGI that you'd have to put into it, and I mean you got to consider You got to consider like someone's necklace floating as well, and how are they going to fake that? You got to consider this person getting further away from the camera, making sure that it's also that they're traveling through an environment where the camera is kind of in, where the camera actually exists, and so the camera can get further away and closer, and that they can disappear behind things and all that kind of stuff. So it does get... Oh, and they've got to also be able to grab objects within the environment as well, which you're starting to get
I've
into...
seen videos like that before, that he's tried to grab a hat and put it on a shelf, but it's not actually in his hand, and that confused me, because it's like, is that artificial, like, reality or something? Because, like, he goes to grab the hat off him, but he hasn't guided him, and then he goes to put it on the shelf, and there's nothing in his hands.
Okay, I haven't seen that. Although...
I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah. That is one of them times where I think that was just like a glitch, or like what they call an artifact or something. These things are going to happen if you're sending back signals from the ISS. Every now and again there'll be like some type of anomaly that doesn't look quite right, but it is like definitely that occasion, because I remember being a flat earther and seeing that and being like, I even mentioned it in one of my videos, saying like, he's clearly just, they're doing green screen, he didn't even have a cap in his hand, like, I literally had that exact thought as you, Rach, but there is 100% an explanation for it. I can't exactly think of it now, but it is, it's a 1 in a thousand chance. And yes, it was on camera, like, but no, like, that's just, you got to look at all the other times as well. I get you 100%, but no, that is explainable, and there is an explanation for it.
One of the things that I also would like to say is that I have seen a very interesting video. My sister showed it to me on TikTok, and it was of this astronaut, or this person that had returned from the ISS. And what he does is he goes to grab something, but he has something in his hand, so he puts this. So he takes this thing that's in his hand, puts it just in front of him, and then lets go and goes to grab the thing. And then he turns back and he realizes that on Earth things don't float. I think that was hilarious. But it's because he's so used to, he lets something go and it just floats there. And I think that's just something very interesting that I mean, sure, he could be acting, but I kind of doubt it, I think that it is a genuine thing where they forget that, or they are temporarily sort of unaware that things don't act like how they do on the ISS, and it does make perfect sense, right?
A few people are saying, like, the amount of money the film Gravity made, like, really, aren't NASA in the wrong business?
Oh yeah, like Gravity made
Yeah, like, so really, why NASA faking all this? You know, yeah, they're getting a few million, but there's film corporations out there earning much more than NASA do. And why aren't NASA doing that if they're so good at making films?
Yeah. What I'd actually also say is that NASA has many employees, right? And there are heaps of employees. I mean, how many of these employees has Nurthen Thurmpson managed to run into?
A few.
Yeah. So I don't get why all these employees would be being paid to for nothing, right? You'd have... it makes sense to have someone productive. Even if you are trying to grift, you'd at least want to get the people that you're paying to make it look legit to be doing something productive with their time. I also know someone that works for a company that there's something to do with satellites. I'm not sure exactly what they are doing because they have a NDA, non-disclosure agreement with them, so they're not actually allowed to tell me what they're doing. But I don't get why they'd employ this person.
Fake satellites, isn't it?
Yeah. Essentially, this person does joke occasionally. They say, I can neither confirm nor deny that birds are actually government drones. Right? So, I mean, they've got a good sense of humour. But it's one of them things why would they be employed if for this thing? And they are doing work on things like I know that they do a bit of server work, like labeling cables and stuff, all that good stuff. But it's why would they employ someone if they don't need this person there, right? It's just adding more people into the conspiracy, and this person has seen, or at least they've told me that they've seen documents that say top secret on them or confidential. Right, so it's something that, why would they... Why would you pay someone when they might accidentally see a line that says the Earth is flat?
Yeah, you wouldn't risk it. That's why I believe any true conspiracies out there, people like me and you would not know about them. Do you know what I mean? There definitely are secrets out there. Government secret, you know what I mean? Top secret. We wouldn't know about it if there were. Do you know what I mean? But we get so caught up in, I believe, some people being against governments, and you then end up conspiring against them sort of mentally and coming up with all these theories that they're doing this, they're doing that, but really, yeah, I think they do lie, but nowhere near to the extent that a conspiracy theorist ends up thinking how far it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they actually take themselves away from the real problems.
I think that when it comes to, and I have realised that Rachie hasn't spoken in a while, so.
Oh, sorry,
I was
Rachie.
just looking for some of my notes, that's all as well, and listening.
But I want to say that you've also got to consider motive, because if there is no motive for why they're about the shape of the Earth, then I don't think that it's good to believe that they are lying about the shape of the Earth. And I think that's same with motive for any conspiracy, really, is if they've got a good motive, then sure, yeah, you can believe that there's a conspiracy. With something like, let's say, the moon landings, actually a really good motive for why they'd want to fake the moon landings, and that is to beat Russia to the moon.
Political.
Yeah. The problem there is that when you get to if you consider the Earth being flat or something, then it becomes a lot more, firstly, why would Russia say that the Earth is... why wouldn't Russia just go, oh yeah, by the way, the moon doesn't exist, or we can't land on the moon because the Earth is flat, right? And also, if the Earth is flat, then the US would know that Russia isn't going to get to the moon because the Earth is flat, so they wouldn't have to race to the moon, you know? It's...
Well, for me, it was more
they just wouldn't
money
create,
for
like,
Maltese.
in that sort of totalitarian system where, like, everyone's under control. Why would they have to create such an elaborate lie to keep us mere ants in place? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think everyone kind of almost over evaluates their single life as to, like, this is all against me, when it does come down to politics. I think a lot of these conspiracies, like, it's going against, and I am a bit of an anti-politician, and I spoke with Planarwalk about this before on our chat. We actually ended up getting quite political, but I believe that's where most conspiracies lead from, is like a misunderstanding of just how bad you think these governments are. Yes, there are bad people in the governments, but they're not all out there trying to kill you. But it is easy to fall down that path.
Yeah. I think it also, and because I know a few people that are into conspiracy theories, and some of them are a bit too heavily involved into conspiracy theories, where I actually got like a piece of paper which has like a whole lot of conspiracy things about COVID-19, and I think that a lot of it comes down to the fact that there are screwed up things in the world, right? Like, there's no denying that there's no denying that...
Too many.
Yeah, there's no denying that there's things that are screwed up, like the fact that 1% of the population has, 50% of the wealth. Like, that's some screwed up stuff. Yeah. And I think that when it comes to something like 50% of the population, or 1% of the population having 50% of the wealth, then yeah, there's ways to fix it. And I think that one of the big problems is that being a conspiracy theorist in general is actually rather counterproductive. Like, yeah. I saw this thing a while back. Who here knows about Q?
Yeah, QAnon.
QAnon.
Yeah. So a
little bit.
Yeah, well, I know a little bit about QAnon. It's something that I've been meaning to look at, but it's one of them things that's like, where do I start? Because it seems to be like a huge rabbit hole. But basically, one of the things that a lot of people that are part of QAnon say is that they're trying to stop child sex trafficking or something like that. And yeah, when it comes to that is an actual problem that is in the real world. Like, you got people like Jeffrey Epstein, and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things is that a lot of the QAnon people are very counterproductive when it comes to that. And I think some actual groups that are trying to reduce as much child sex trafficking as they can have actually said, hey, look, QAnon, you're actually hurting us rather than helping us, because firstly, with QAnon, they make these issues sound like they don't exist, when they do. And
they're tapping into, like, the kind of human consciousness at the time, I think.
And so I think that a lot of conspiracies are very counterproductive for whatever you're trying to achieve. Now, there may be some things where they may be productive, right? Like, I'm not sure which ones, but I mean, okay, 9/11. If your goal is to get less funding for the military, saying that 9/11 was an inside job to go to war with Iraq, then yeah, maybe you could stop the military from being having so much funding. But at the same time, if a lot of people believe that it's just that you're just crazy talk, then it may be that people don't think that defunding the military is such a good idea or such an important goal, when in fact it is. And so yeah. But this is more in general conspiracies, I think, rather than flat Earth.
Yeah. Should we round it up and go back to flat Earth?
Yeah, I think.
Well, I say round it up. Show some curve.
Yeah. Well, Rachie, is there anything else that you want to know about, or any other doubts that you've got about the globe?
It's just like when people give you different stories, like the astronauts. Like, I don't know if you've seen it, but when they nudge each other, like as if to say, "Shut up, don't say that."
I didn't quite catch what.
Have you seen that?
Because your voices are kind of a little bit muffled. I couldn't quite catch what you're saying there.
You know, when the three astronauts were sitting, when they come back from the moon, they was nudging each other as if to say, like, "Shut up, don't say that." Like.
I caught when the astronauts came back from the moon, but I didn't. Seek Truth, do you understand what she's saying, or?
She said, I believe she said when the astronauts came back from the moon, there's footage of them kind of nudging each other as if to stop each other from saying anything or saying too much.
Okay, well, I don't know necessarily about that. I think because... Oh, no, sorry, mate. I was going to say, like, that interview where most people point at was actually nearly 3 months after they came back from the moon. They had actually done, like, hundreds and hundreds of interviews before that one. And, like, people, flat earthers especially, will look at that and be like, that was their first ever interview after coming back. But it actually wasn't. Like, they'd done so many, and, like, people were saying is, by that point, not being funny, it was 3 months later. They may have even been a little bit bored of it by then, do you know what I mean? Like, they want to revel in it in their mind. They're fed up with the same question over and over again, like...
But that wouldn't make you nudge someone, would it?
No, I don't think they necessarily nudge. Like, again, it might be a cherry-picked moment. Like, it might look like someone nudges someone, but unless one of them, you know, I don't think you can look at that as proof that they're lying. It might have just been a moment caught on camera. You know what I mean? An in-joke between the two of them. You know.
Yeah, but then you've got the ones on the ISS and that other one that was saying, like, some say, oh, like, I mean, the way they look at each other, it's almost as if they don't know what to say, or, you know, you go first kind of thing, then I'll just confirm.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh,
that's
it's
what
a
it is.
spectacular view, and then you got others saying, no, you can't see anything.
They're not actors, are they? They're not, like, built for television. They've become astronauts. Like, they haven't gone there to end up on television.
That's actually exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, but they give, like, contradicting stories. Like, one says, oh, you can see, you know, planets and stars and this cluster, and basically the view's amazing. And then you've got another astronaut who has also been on the ISS, and they say, no, you can't, it's just a black void.
Well, sometimes it depends, like, how, like, what they're looking at. Like, if you're in the daytime, right, you're not going to see the stars because the Earth is actually rather bright. When it comes to the when it comes to being on the night side, you'd probably be able to look out into the night sky and see a lot of stars or something. It would really depend, and you'd have to know the full context of what they're talking about.
Well, from what I gathered, they were talking about like looking out from the ISS and what they could see and what they couldn't see.
Yeah,
It's like
I think
even the way
again,
they look
though,
at each other, they look at each other like suspicious, like, oh, like what shall we say, like, you know what I mean? And then they try and like back each other up, kind of thing.
why
That's what it
wouldn't
looks like anyway.
If they're trying to hide it, then why wouldn't an editor step in and say, "You got that wrong, guys. You look really suspicious there." Do you know what I mean? It's just a natural conversation between two people. They're looking at each other as to say, "Do you want to go first? Do you want to go first?" Do you know, like how me and Planarwalk here keep interrupting each other a little bit because we're online. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's just two people communicating, and you're looking so deeply into it, but it's just two guys looking at each other, and yeah, like you say, contradictory ideas. But again, in a court of law, like, or when people are asked for evidence on what did you see then, some people get it wrong. It doesn't mean that they're not factual in what they're saying. You just might say something wrong one.
Yeah.
And then the whole internet picks it up, and suddenly they're all liars.
It's also a case of when it comes to I had something I was going to say. Oh yeah, when it comes to this, if NASA were faking it or something, then you'd expect them to try and make sure that they've got their story straight.
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't seem like they've got the story straight almost. But I know what you mean, like, if they wanted them to fake it, then they should have the story straight. And like what FTFE just said about like, the way they look at each other, about which one to go first, that does actually make a little bit of sense. I suppose I'm just looking for holes in it as well, ain't he?
You must remember the Elon Musk quote when he says, like, oh, it looks, it looks fake, so it has to be real. And I kind of understand that now by what he meant. Because if they were faking it, they could have made it so elaborate and look so amazing. And do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's just a car in space. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what he meant by that now. But because of the internet, there's so many people with big voices that it's so easy to, over a year or two, cherry pick hundreds of things what people have said and discount the other 20,000 things that they've also said that kind of go completely against what they're saying.
Yeah. It is one thing where, like, the internet has been both a blessing and a what's the opposite of a blessing?
Curse.
Yeah, a curse. Because on one hand, the internet allows you to connect with people online. It allows you to... You've got a whole lot of information at your fingertips, right? But you've also got a whole lot of misinformation at your fingertips. You know, you click on the wrong link and then all of a sudden... you're being told how Bill Gates is trying to enact Agenda 21 through 5G vaccine chips and, you know.
Yeah.
It gets
There's a lot
pretty
of misinformation as well out there, isn't there?
Yeah. But I honestly think, like, it takes people's minds away from the real problems on this earth.
Yeah.
And most people that, because you said to me the other day, Rachie, like, I might be thick as shit, and I was like, not at all. Like, you would not care if you were thick. Like, the reason and fact you're looking into this is because you do care, and that is intelligent. So people are easily drawn into this, and lots of intelligent people are lost in this conspiracy life when in reality there's real problems, and you guys could help bloody deal with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying my best now, and yeah, like there's big problems out there, but you know, is the Earth flat? Did we go to the moon? Like, that's not the issue. Like, you know, like, let's worry about what's going on in our day-to-day lives, and you know, that's my standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable standpoint to take.
Sorry,
What about that
Rachel,
lady who says
I'm like ranting
she's
at
seen a
you
Coke bottle
as
on
if
the
I'm
moon?
expecting a.
What's that? You both talked at the same time, so it was hard to see.
Yeah, sorry. What was that, Rachel? You go on.
I was just gonna say about that. She's like an old lady and she's seen the moon landings, but she said that she saw like a Coke bottle on the moon, and she was saying all these different things about the moon landing. Like I believe she was in Australia or something, and she was one of the first to see it or something. And there was like a Coke bottle on the moon or something. I'll send you the link if you want to see that. Like if you haven't seen it.
Weird. Yeah, I've never heard that.
I
I know there's Sorry, we're doing it again, mate.
you go first.
I was going to say, on the moon, actually, I can't think what it's called now. Maybe like, I don't know, the Lost Astronaut or something. But there's like a plaque and a little figure been left there, and it's got the names of all the kind of people that had died on the way, not necessarily on the mission to get there, but you know, within the train and mission and all of this, like. So yeah, there's definitely something up there like that, but I've never heard of a Coke can being up there, Coke bowl.
It can also like there
No,
are.
it was during the moon landing apparently.
It can also be because our brains are not good at remembering things, right? So it could be a case of there's something that she misremembered, like it might be that she thought she saw a Coke bottle, but in reality it might have been a case of her
Pepsi can.
well no like I'm sure there's been an advertisement for Coke. I'm talking about the drink, not the not the drug. But I'm sure there'd be an advertisement for Coke that takes place on the moon or something, and there might be she's remembered that and remembered seeing the moon landings, and they've somehow gotten combined.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, she seemed pretty sure from what I remember. It's been a while since I've watched it though.
I mean, I know that I've sometimes misremembered things, and I later go back and watch it and I'm like, huh, that didn't happen how I remembered it.
I actually have that like story. I've had stories from my childhood, and I've relayed them. And it went to my sister, who was over listening to me once, and I'd told this story say 10 times, and she went, "Craig, that's nothing like what happened." Like, you know, and I've got this childhood memory, and that was to do actually with the death of one of my rabbits. And she was like, "Well, Craig, it weren't even your rabbit, that was mine." And that just shows you how your memory changes over time. Like, I have this memory of having a rabbit, and I didn't even have a rabbit, it was my sister's.
And
This is the Nelson Mandela effect.
Yeah.
well, I mean, yeah, like that's a perfect example of the Mandela effect. Is like people seem to remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison, whereas that never happened. You know?
There's been lots
Yeah,
of
it was like
weird
in the
things that are.
90s, no, 80s. Yeah. That's mad. But it's just a collection. There must have been a story at the time, probably when Nelson Mandela maybe came out of prison, and a collective of people just accidentally remembered that as he died, you know, and everyone remembered it like that.
So yeah, it's. I think that there's definitely some explanations for these types of things. It's, you know, it may just because
some of the weirdest ones are the Disney films.
The Disney films.
Yeah, like you know, like what are them two twins called? Is it not Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
That's initially what I thought. Although that's because I was playing a game yesterday with Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
But I think it might be them. They're in I can't remember, but like everyone remembers them with like little helicopters on their head, but not in any cartoon do they ever have these little helicopters on their head, you know, and weird things like that. Like, it's so strange.
Yeah, it probably is Tweedledum and Tweedledee. That's from Alice in Wonderland, right?
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland. It's either one way or the other. Like, either they did have these little helicopters or they didn't, or. But yeah, like, but even obviously now, what usually happens is there's a modern day interpretation of it again, and maybe they did have that, and people have crossed wires and they're very similar, so you've remembered them both the same.
Well, I think it's like the Monopoly Man, right? Like, he doesn't actually have a monocle.
That's it, and everyone remembers him to have a monocle.
And the reason why people sort of initially... I think that a lot of the reason why people would expect him to have a monocle is because... is simply because, like, that's how rich people are interpreted. Like, the Monopoly Man appears to be a very rich person, and, I mean, did Scrooge McDuck had a monocle, right? Let me see. Scrooge McDuck.
I hope so, otherwise that's another one.
I know he didn't. No, he didn't have a monocle.
I remember him with a monocle. Oh no! I literally can picture him with a bloody monocle.
Me too.
Jesus.
He doesn't. He has glasses.
That damn human mind.
Yeah, like, you'd expect him to have a monocle. Like, I was thinking, oh yeah, Scrooge McDuck would have a monocle. And no, he doesn't. Like, we just expect wealthy people in... as just wealthy people, we expect to have monocles.
I actually think, like, if ever I need glasses, I'm not going to have glasses, I'm going to have 2 monocles. I think that'd be so cool. It might be a bit of an inconvenience, but I just, for looks value, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, one person says, now that you mention it, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. And also, how many people do you think it's told to them that they see something, and then they... Like, the whole Nelson Mandela, the Mandela thing, right? Dying in prison. How many people do you think they were told, do you remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison? And they're like, actually, now that you mention it, yes, I do. How many people do you think it's like that, you know? Like, how many people do you think it's a case of, I brought up the monocle of Scrooge McDuck, and people thought, yeah, Scrooge McDuck has a monocle. He doesn't.
That's a big percentage. Like, a lot of people would still say he died in, I believe, the early 90s. When in reality he didn't. I think it was only, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago at the top of my head.
Yeah. So
that's scary, really, isn't it? Because he's such a massive worldwide figure.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people would still get that wrong.
I think it's also, like, a lot of people find it so scary because, like, if our memory can be this mistaken... Yeah, yeah. But I feel like we've gotten way off the topic here.
Yeah, we're not even talking about flat Earth anymore. We're just having a chat, aren't we?
Although that is the great thing about, like, calm discussions like this, is you can actually go way off topic, and it's... and, like...
Sorry, I've probably, like, bombed the conversation.
No, don't worry.
Last time, when me and you had a chat, like, it was supposed to be, like, interviewing an ex-flat earther, and we ended up talking about politics half the time. So, but, like... That's got to happen, you know. It just, conversations evolve, don't they?
Yeah. Like, I could literally just, I'm one button away from talking about, so in my game, Which is actually what we did talk about a little bit last time. I remember that. I was working on it.
There's still like, yeah.
Yeah. But, Rachie, is there anything else that you, like, any other doubts? Because, like, I do want to try and address as many of them as I can during this conversation, because I feel like there's, like, quite... For a lot of flat earthers, there's a lot of little things that, whilst there may be individual like little bits and pieces, whilst maybe the accumulation of them doesn't prove a flat Earth, in the mind of a lot of flat earthers, I think that they probably do.
It just seems like all the little things build up into like one big thing.
Yeah, and I think that
and we've got. Sorry, I was just going to say, and we need to obviously get that to the point where all the little things of the globe build up more, if you know what I mean. What you're thinking at the minute are holding you against the globe. You'll be able to knock them down like Skittles as soon as a few of them click.
It was like that CIA one that I sent you, but you like kind of debunked that.
Well, an interesting...
When he says like sending children to Mars.
So what I mean, like just if you literally just take, and it is so difficult, and like here we're talking about so many subjects, but I would personally, if I was you, concentrate on one. So say the moon. I know Baldy Cat's video he did. I won't put words into your mouth, but can you now accept that the moon is not self-illuminating through what
definitely 100%.
showed you?
It's reflecting the sun.
Yeah. So I would now forget about gravity, forget about curvature, forget about rotation. Concentrate on the fact that
there is one
now
thing that I don't understand about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
And that's like, if you've got the moon on one side of the globe and then you've got the sun on the other, how is it managing to light up the moon from the other side of the globe?
Okay, that is a good question, and the reason why is because the shadow of the Earth is a cone, right? And there's only a couple of times when there's only once or twice a year where the moon falls into that shadow, and that's when we get a lunar eclipse.
So the moon's not in a shadow.
Yeah, so when the moon is not in a shadow, it's going to be illuminated by the sun.
But wouldn't it be in the shadow if the sun's the other side of the globe, because the sun would be casting on the globe, and therefore casting the shadow on the moon?
Well, what I'll do is
all the time.
The moon is so much closer. Obviously, the moon is still far away, but it's so much closer than the sun. Basically, whatever time of day it is on Earth, it's going to be the same on the moon. So wherever we are, like that, the moon is always half lit. No matter where you are, half of that moon is always lit by the sun. And then as it travels around, you then notice the different angles. As those 28 days pass, which correlates exactly to kind of where the angle of the sun is, but the moon is always half lit.
Yeah, so the way that I'd explain it is basically with this, right? So with this diagram here in paint, you got the sun here. The sun will the Earth will cast a cone-shaped shadow, right? And when the moon isn't in that shadow, it will be half-lit, even though the sun is on the other side of the Earth.
But I don't see how the sun can reach the moon if the globe's in the way.
Well, if I...
it only ever is for an eclipse, though. The only time it is when there's an eclipse. Like, at no other point is the Earth in the way.
Yeah, so this is not to scale, obviously, because otherwise. But you see how you see here how the rays of the sun are still reaching the moon. Like the ray.
Yeah, so you're drawing a massive sun, ain't you? I'm still thinking small and local sun. Yeah, I need to start thinking big sun.
Yeah, because with a huge sun, you're going to get the sun's rays. Most of them will be able to reach the moon. When the moon is within the shadow of the Earth, then they won't. And that's...
when it's in the, I don't know what you mean, because if you move that into that, then you wouldn't see. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
Oh, that makes sense then, yeah.
Yeah. And, I think that myself, Cats, and Seek Truth, Speak Truth, we're all, would all be glad to answer any questions that you have,
Thank you, appreciate it.
Well, no problem.
I know that's the thing. Obviously, with Baldy Cat's video he put out yesterday, like, honestly, think Rachie needs to spend the next 2 or 3 days kind of taking in the conversation us three guys have had tonight. It's been very civil, and I think some good points have been put across as to how easily it is to take apart Flat Earth and the conspiracies around it, moon landing, etc. And Rachie, honestly, just please watch Baldy's video a few more times. And I have faith. I know for a fact there's so many people out there calling you a fake and all of this, but I myself and Baldy Cats and Planner would not be talking to you like this. Like, I have faith in you. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
And thank you for letting me on the stream.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, cheers, Planner, mate.
Yeah. There was something I was going to say, but I've forgotten.
Sorry, I ranted again.
Don't worry. I am very forgetful. Like, sometimes I'll start what I was going to say and then I'll forget halfway through.
Yeah, I'm like that. I'm
like
like
that
when
too.
I'm listening to you guys, I'm thinking like, please remember what it is you want to say, and then I start and then ended up saying nothing to do with what I want to say.
Yeah. There is often, like, one of the things I often do say to people, or do I often say this? I don't know. But one of the things I often should say to people, at least, is that, like, make sure that you when you do research on this kind of thing, like, there may be something that, like, there's been times when I've thought, how does this work on the globe, right? It does, because it might be something that doesn't necessarily disprove the globe by itself, but it's like, it is definitely confusing, right? And it's like, okay, how would this work on the globe? And then you look into it and it's like, oh, well, that makes sense. And I think that it's about, instead of just researching reasons why the globe is wrong, try researching reasons to support the globe as well. Because you may be surprised to find that some of the things that you look into, well, there's an explanation for both sides, but if one side is pushing it as a debunk of the other side, and it's easily explained by the other side, then, it's not really a debunk of the other side.
I think sometimes
Yeah,
as
that's
well
a bit like what
it's
FTFE was saying the other day with the moon landings, to look into actually debunking the conspiracy that it was fake, and I haven't actually done that.
Yeah, and sometimes it is easier to believe the conspiracy, and I certainly fall into that mindset of, like, if you hear a bit of information and suddenly you think, I can go up to 8 out of 9 people and tell them something, and they're going to go, what? Like, it's an empowering thing, and you hear that and you feel that, and that's how these people build up. say like David Icke or someone like that, he got a few things right in his early days when he called out the paedophilia that was going on within the BBC, and he got that right. No one listened to him, but then he became empowered by coming up with these more elaborate stories, and suddenly the Queen's a lizard. You know, but there's a cut-off point of where the truth ends, and then this fantasy begins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is sometimes there may be a bit of interesting, like sometimes a flat earther might get something right. They may hit the nail on the head on something, and it's like, okay, well, it's one of them things where it's like, let's talk about this. Like, why is I'm trying to think of an example. It's very hard to give an actual example for this one. Like they may say, okay, here's an example that kind of works but kind of doesn't work. Let's take the what is it? The Felix Baumgartner thing where there's supposed to be Coriolis, and it's like, well, yeah, there is Coriolis, and it's like, let's look into why there isn't Coriolis, or why he doesn't appear to be affected by Coriolis. And the reason why is because the amount of Coriolis that he should have been affected by was about 13 kilometers. The Coriolis force should have pushed him 13 kilometers to the east. All right, no, to the west. My bad. Whereas he landed 50 kilometers to the east. And it's like, well, it's obvious that what happened there is that wind just blew him 50 kilometers to the east, which overpowered the amount of Coriolis that should have pushed him 13 kilometers to the west. And it's one of the things where if you sit down and actually think about it and try and like, you may have something there, but it may not be exactly a debunk of the globe, and it may be something interesting. And definitely it was interesting to work out how much Coriolis would have affected Felix Baumgartner, but it doesn't support what flat earthers say, and yeah. I'm still trying to find a
Coriolis that...
What's that?
I was going to say, what about the Coriolis that Neil deGrasse Tyson brought up that way? He says it turns underneath the football. So it doesn't appear to turn underneath anything else.
It's one of them things where where it's a very small amount. I think that when I feel like Neil deGrasse Tyson, a lot of what he does is like trying to really nitpick things and being like, well,
it's for the shock factor.
Yeah. And
again, I'm sitting there going, bloody Neil deGrasse Tyson. Do you know what I mean? I think he's amazing, and, you know, 100 times more intelligent than I'll ever be, and I love him. But that bloody bugger, he just says the odd thing every now and again, and it gives a soundbite, but he might just not be quite, you know, he's saying it for the video maybe, or, you know what I mean? He's an entertainer. He's a communicator. He's trying to make people interested in science, but he's not necessarily getting the exact fact right. And I can't blame him for that, but you cannot take his word for everything when it suits fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the fact that, like, he contradicts what others say, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody gets things wrong, and because he is one of America's, like, biggest science communicators, everything he says is scrutinized, and people pick things and cherry pick things, but that one thing that he said probably isn't 99% of the scientific consensus, but he said something through emotion sometime, or, you know, but everything he says cannot be taken as gospel.
Another thing that you got to consider is other things as well, like with that football, it could be like the wind also has an effect. Like the wind would definitely have an effect on it, right? And it's like,
Much more effect, wouldn't it?
yeah, it's like, sure, the Earth's rotation may have played that tiny part, but the wind would have played a much bigger part. And a lot of people don't see that, I think. They don't see the effects of things like wind. But also, I just want to say, don't let people try and overwhelm you with all the different effects as well. Like, there's been times when people are like, this is in regards to climate change. They're like, well, when it comes to climate change, there's other factors that you have to consider when it comes to the warming of the planet, and it's like there's like the distance of the sun, there's the elliptical nature of Earth's orbit, there's the amount of carbon that's in, and all this different things, and it's like, well, yeah, but these don't have as much of an effect as you'd think, and I feel like that's one trap that you can easily, like, don't go from one extreme to another, is what I'm trying to say. Don't go from one extreme of, oh, this thing must have an effect, to the extreme of, oh, everything must have an effect, you know? Because I feel like you can get down to that. Just be like, okay, what's relevant to things? I know that's a tangent, but but I feel like I just have to say that.
You brought up the sun as well then. I was just wondering if you have any evidence of the distance to the sun. I've never seen any evidence of the distance to the sun.
Okay. So I know that I actually know people that have measured the distance to the sun. Unfortunately, the way that they measured the distance to the sun was using the orbit of Venus around the sun. That's not going to happen for another fair while. When's the
next time it happens, we'll all be dead, won't we? It's like 100 years away or something.
The transit of Venus. When's the next one? Next transit of Venus. It's going to happen on the 11th.
Is that what we saw recently?
Last one was in 2012. The next one will be on 11th of December 2117. So I'm probably I'm probably going to be long gone by then.
Now imagine Rachie, that kind of, in flat Earth, the dome going round. All it really gives you is like a 12-month pattern. If you really stretch. But like, when it gets to these things that happen every 4 years, one thing happens every 7. Where do they come from in the dome? Like, where do they disappear to and then suddenly come back? Taking away the stars. There's meteor showers that are predicted, and every 6 years they happen. We know when they.
See, for me, I don't believe the dome. I think. Well, I thought space was the firmament, basically. I still believe in space. I just didn't believe it was as vast as what they say it is.
I just have to say real quick is that I'm getting a lot of static from Seek Truth, Speak Truth. And then it got really bad for a second there. I'm not sure if that was Seek Truth, Speak Truth moving his camera around, or if it was something else. Or moving his mic around, or if it was something else. But, yeah, like, I'm not sure of the exact maths and everything that was used to figure out the distance to the sun using the transit of Venus. But I do know that the transit of Venus has been used to figure out the distance to the sun in order to get... And then there's also other ways like radio waves, but it's not going to be something that I'm not going to use the distance to the sun to try and prove the Earth is a globe, because to prove the distance to the sun, you've already got to accept that Earth is a globe, if you know what I mean.
Well, kind of, but if it ended up being close, like if you measured the distance and then it was close, then
Yeah,
I don't know. It depends how far away it is, I suppose, doesn't it, really?
yeah. I think that the best thing when it comes to the distance to the sun is something by Slice Barkane, right? And let me bring that up. I've shown this many times. Slice Barkane, Eratosthenes. I think this is it. I've got... Yeah, I think... I'm 90% sure that this is it. I think he managed to maybe even figure out the distance to the sun here. Okay, so... Alright, so this is something that Slice Sparkane did with a lot of people. Essentially, what they did is they measured the angles to the sun, and this is what you'd expect to see on a. So the grey line is what you'd expect to see on a flat Earth. The green line is what what was actually measured when it comes to the angle. So right now it's just going through all the different angles that they got. And yeah, it's going through different angles that they got, and it also shows the measurements that all the measurements that they got, and how they all that kind of stuff, which is very important for these kinds of things, right? You want to get good measurements. And it's telling you the latitude and elevation as well, which I think is actually like they've done this really well. Now that I'm actually looking back on it, like yeah, they got elevations and all that, like latitude and all that. Good on them. Good on them. Actually, Simon Dan was going to do something like this, but. Didn't have enough people. I still took my measurements though. But yeah, if I skip ahead to got got an ad. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and. So zooming out on it, this is what the actual measurements that were recorded were, right? That where the sun, I think this was done on the equinox, so the sun should be directly above the equator. And if we continue to, oh yeah, it's just saying the closest person to get a measurement of the sun being directly above the equator was this Joshua S. guy. And what they now do is they map this to a globe, right? And does it really slowly, so I'm going to speed this up a bit so we... Even then it's really slowly. But anyway, as you can see, when you map it to a globe, they're all pointing in roughly the same direction. Obviously, there's going to be a few slight discrepancies with the measurements, but the fact that they're all pointing in roughly the same direction does mean, at least to me, it does mean that they are... that the sun should be quite far away and that the Earth is likely a globe. Well, because when you map it onto a globe, so yeah. I just thought I'd...
so they didn't actually get a number of how far?
I think it does say like in the thumbnail it said the distance to the sun, but I'm not actually sure how. Like it says experimental proof of Earth's shape and sun's distance. I think maybe they're just talking about sun being far away. So yeah, that might be. So yeah, it might just be they're saying, oh, the sun's really far away. It's not exactly that the sun. It's not maybe not be. It might not be that they figured out. Okay, here's the exact distance to the sun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just an interesting thing that I think is worth considering is that a lot of these observations do conform with what you'd expect to see on a globe. And so, you know...
Yeah, like evidence for a globe.
Yeah. So yeah. Is there anything else that you want to bring up? Or should I just end up the stream here?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll end up the stream, and... Because I've got stuff that I need to get to. So anyway...
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, wait, that's the wrong button. That's the right button. Anyway, leave a like and subscribe if you liked that stream. Leave a comment letting me know what you'd like me to do for future streams. I might actually be having a debate with someone on... So I know next week it will be Russia Stupid, the presidential inauguration edition. But the week after that, it should be a debate with this person that was challenging me to a debate in my comments section. So I was like, sure, let's do it. But yeah, make sure you also ring the bell so that you actually get notified of when I post videos, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next stream. Between you and me, thank you for watching. Now, what was I playing before the when the stream started? Something like I could work with that.